This is Space Cat's Peace Turtles, the unofficial podcast for Fantasy Flight's Twilight Imperium.
Episode 116.
2020 Tournament Mock Draft. Music by Ben Prunty, featuring Matt Martins and Hunter Donaldson. Well, hello there. Top of the show here. It's just Matt real quick. Matt from the future. I'm actually just tossing this in right at the tippy top of the show to say, hey, Hunter and I are doing something really, really cool coming up. On January 16th, the Oath Kickstarter is kind of jumping off, and Leader Games has invited us to come hang out with Cole Worley, as well as popular board game personality, the Meeple Lady. And we're going to play Oath live on Tabletop Simulator with Cole Worley on their live stream at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, January 16th. And we would love it if you came out and showed the Space Cats support, but also came and checked out this awesome game that we're like kind of wickedly excited for, and really excited to be like partnering up more and more with Leader Games and just doing stuff with them. We're actually going to, after that stream, because Oath operates, if you listened to the Oath interview with Cole Worley, Oath operates as kind of a pseudo-legacy-ish game where future sessions remember previous sessions that you played, which means for the next 3 weeks after January 16th, we are going to continue playing Oath live on stream. We won't be playing with Cole Worley or Meeple Lady most likely after that, but Hunter and I and then some other guests will every Saturday, we don't have an exact set time for that yet, but every Saturday after January 16th for 3 or 4 weeks, we will be streaming more playthroughs of Oath so that you can see how the game kind of changes from session to session based on what happens in previous sessions. We'll do little overviews of what previous sessions have done and kind of show you what the story of an arc of Oath could look like. So we're super, super excited to be doing that. Again, it's January 16th at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, and that's going to be on the Leader Games Twitch channel, so go follow that, go join in, and come join us for the fun. Anyways, here is the rest of the show.
I'm excited about these. Are like my favorite episodes.
Yeah?
Because I feel like when we started the show, this was kind of the type of stuff that we thought we would be doing.
This is the vision.
And it took so long. I mean, like, it's just something that just comes up every once in a while, an opportunity to do an episode like this.
Right. A very step back theory crafty kind of weird thing where it's just like, let's just talk through the thing and see what we come up with.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's we got goofy ones, we have heavily strategic ones, and this is like meeting right in the middle. Today's going to be like a right in the middle kind of episode in terms of goofiness and strategic. We're going to be thinking and we're going to be talking strategically, but it's not like we can like get crazy specific on anything, you know?
Yeah. And I will say this episode, first of all, was voted on by the Galactic Counselors.
Yeah. Thanks, Galactic Council.
Thank you so much. This one is very much like tournament-centric.
Yeah.
So, like, a couple things that you probably need to brush up on that we'll cover briefly is, like, the prelims map. It would probably be good to pull up an image of that so you have that in your head.
Right.
This is an episode where me and Matt are in TTS right now, and we're going to be doing a lot of things and trying to describe it visually and keep it all in your head.
Right.
But generally speaking, those episodes are a little bit,
trickier,
rougher.
Yeah. We'll do our best though to make it as audibly visual as possible.
Yes.
But yeah, let's go over the tournament draft as well, real quick, before we get into kind of anything else, just so that people remember. So first off, we've got the map. It's got the 6 slices that are very much designed to be not equivalent, right? They're not. There's one that is literally called the best one because it has got the most stuff in it, and they kind of work counterclockwise around to then the worst slice. Which the whole point of that is to say we expect the speaker token to end up in the worst position. So the way the tournament draft works, if you are not familiar, is everyone rolls their initial die. This is their draft roll. And that draft roll, the person with the highest roll on that will be given the speaker token. We already know that they're speaker. And then in draft order, we ban factions from the available list of all 17. So the speaker gets to ban the very first faction. And then the person who goes 6th bans a 6th faction. And then in reverse order, they get to pick a position on the map, which means that 6th player gets to pick the first pie slice. Which is why they will usually pick the best one. They'll pick a very, very good pie slice because that's the only thing they know right now. They know that not only have 6 factions already been banned, but 5 more factions are going to get picked before I get to pick a faction. So they are typically going, I need to hedge my bets on the best slice so that whatever weird faction I end up with at the end of the day will be doable in this bad slice. That's kind of the major assumption of this map. So then in reverse order, everyone picks one pie slice, typically ending with the speaker picking what we call the speakeasy pie slice, which is not a very good pie slice, but you're going to have the added benefit of definitely picking first. You're going to get whatever strategy card you want. And so then the final step of the draft is in that same draft order, starting with speaker. We've turned it around again. They will now pick their faction. So you get your first pick of faction. You know you're going to get first pick of strategy card. You just have the worst slice in most cases. This isn't forced on the players, but on average, that's how it's going to work out. So then by the end of the draft, everyone has now picked a faction and a pie slice, and we're ready to start a regular game of Twilight Imperium. Hunter, what are you and I doing today?
What we're going to do is a couple times we're going to walk through the draft. Me and you are going to play a cast of characters. There's only 2 of us, but we're going to play each 3 different players each, and we're going to go through and just kind of talk about the decisions that we're making in our heads. We're going to go through the entire draft, and then we're actually going to reveal 2 public objectives and then do our strategy card picks.
Yeah, we want to see what the start of a game might properly look like. Now, the one thing we're not doing here that I've just in this moment realized is a bit of a flaw is we aren't going to deal out secret objectives to everybody. So there's one extra piece of information that people might care about, but I'm going to say we're going to let that slide because it's not like everybody always thinks about their secret objective round 1. That's not usually on the front of your mind. You usually look at your secret objective as something you're going to do round 2, round 3. There are obviously exceptions to that rule, but to just make this go faster, we're not going to worry about secret objectives. We're only going to worry about what publics are on the map and what strategy cards people will then decide to pick, because that definitely has a pretty big impact on what people do. So we just want to see what things look like by the time we start action phase of round 1. And this is going to be weird. It's going to be weird because, like Hunter said, there's only 2 of us. And we're going to have to just kind of be pretending. So, take all of this with that grain of salt. There's always crazy people that join these tournaments and do things that we just never would have predicted, and we're just not going to be able to, totally plan for that. We're going to try to let ourselves get a little wild. We're going to do, a few drafts just so we kind of feel out an average, right? We want to get an idea of what factions are routinely making the cut. I will say, at the time of recording, we're actually 2 games deep into the tournament. We haven't seen them finish. They're happening right now while Hunter and I are recording. And in both of those 2 games, the L1Z1X, the Barony, the Xcha, the Asarl, and the Yin Brotherhood have made it in. So we already have a little bit of information of what consistent things are going to be happening. And Hunter and I have that in our head. We're not going to be actively working against that. If it makes sense that those end up in the thing, they'll end up in the thing. But we're just going to try to put on characters and come up with a pretty decent draft that makes sense. We're not going to do anything too crazy.
Yeah. And also, so for the first draft or 2, we're going to operate under the assumption that the players are not communicating or trying to rig the draft in any specific way, but we'll experiment in a little bit with doing that as well. So there's going to be a couple different overall approaches. Right. This first one though, we're not communicating. We're just 6 strangers walk into a room and they start playing the tournament. Yep. And we've actually already rolled for order and everything. I think we should describe ourselves as first player, second player, third player, as opposed to the color, because then that will get really confusing if we do that. Right.
So player 1 is me. I'm Matt. I'm Matt Martins, and I'm playing in this tournament. And
you're playing to win, too.
I'm playing to win. I'm here for it, but my first assumption is I'm probably going to end up in Speakeasy. Right. So a lot of things that have been talked about with players being in Speakeasy, really even the first 2, the biggest assumption about Twilight Imperium in tournament when we do a banning phase is there are 4 factions that are dangerous: Nalu, Clan of Sar, Jolnar, and then the Federation of Sol. Basically, if you look at last week's tier list, right? If you listen to last week's episode, the top 3, and then maybe Sol. But part of our tier list was actually based on the idea that lots of people have been playing test games of this map, and if anything makes it through, it's almost always Sol. Sol is the one that people are like, you know what? Maybe I don't care. Maybe it's all right that Sol gets through. And I think that subconsciously affected our decision to like put Sol in a slightly lower tier, because it's just obvious that people are not as worried about it as they are the other 3 factions.
Right. It's the bottom of the 4.
Sar, and Nalu are pretty much auto bans. So the way that Blue thinks about this then is, listen, if I don't ban a top tier faction, I'm picking factions first. I increase my odds of getting a pretty good faction if I don't ban a top tier faction.
Yeah.
But there's also a flip side to that. I don't want to ban a super, super bad faction because I'm going to get first pick. I'm not going to pick a really bad faction. I'm not going to be stuck with a really bad faction. If anything, I want the player to my right, who I assume, the player in the best one, the person in the best slice, I want them to be a bad faction. So what I need to do is ban the 7th best faction so that I get some, I want to end up with like the 5th best faction in the game.
Right.
Whatever I personally think that is, that's going to be the thing. The other thing I'm looking out for is, what are my potential counters in my neighboring slices? Who might be my problem areas? And if you listened to the episode where we break down the map, you know that you have 2 kinds of neighbors. To my left, I have a neighbor where we share like a highway between our home systems. And to my right, I have a neighbor where we share an equidistant, but we don't have a highway between our home systems. So it's like a little bit trickier to get to the person on my right, but there's maybe arguably more stuff for us to fight over. And then on my left, it's like, if I decided to get into their stuff, like, we would be at full-on war if that happened, because I would be basically getting into their pie slice. So of the 2 people, who am I the most afraid of? Well, I'm mostly afraid of purple, because I say purple meaning little brother slice, the person on my left, because they're going to also get to pick a pretty good faction. So I need to ban something that I'm most afraid of them getting. And so to finally, I have talked enough. I want to ban the Barony of Letnev, because I personally am very afraid of the Barony of Letnev getting in this slice with a really clear path to Mechatol. There's a red skip in there, so it increases their odds of getting non-Euclidean shielding. That freaks me out. There's a really good staging area next to Mechatol that they could put space docks on and just like completely lock down Mechatol, score lots of points. I feel like a Barony in purple and Little Brother is asking for a runaway game, and I don't want that to be an issue. Now, I could have not made that choice, and I could have just known, you know what, I want to pick Barony. But I, as a player in Speakeasy, I don't feel like Barony's going to be my choice, so I'm banning that.
Very interesting. I really liked all of your logic there, especially like Barony very much fits the definition of like a 7th best faction.
Yeah,
like something
absolutely.
in like the middle of the pack of your own personal tier. Okay, so I'm playing player number 2. The general logic is that I will probably end up in Lil Brother. So I don't want to ban something that I would want to play there.
Right.
But also, I do not have the like pressure of, I'm sort of similar to Speakeasy in that like I don't need to ban something like super, super good, because if for some reason the rest of the players decide, oh, we're going to let some super good factions slide through, if they let 2 slide through, then I'm getting that second one. So I'm not going to ban a top 4 faction. And instead, I'm just going to think about what, honestly, in this spot, I tend to just think, hey, what do I not want to play against, basically? Yeah. What of that mid-tier do I just not want to face at all?
What's weird about assuming you're going to play in Little Brother is I don't feel threatened by either of my neighbor's slices. Like, I don't feel like yellow's going to come into my stuff, and I don't really feel like blue's going to come into my stuff, because blue's got better stuff to go fight on their right. But for some reason, I'm not threatened by yellow either, and I can't explain why. That's been a thing for me every time.
Yeah. This is maybe kind of weird, and I want to see how this bounces off your head. I think I would ban Necro in this position.
Yeah.
Because Necro is a very good faction, very good tournament faction. Not top 4, but like a little bit outside of that. Mm-hmm. However, if Necro for some reason made it through, I don't think I would be very interested in playing them in Lil Brother.
Right.
And I think it's just like kind of the way Lil Brother, I think, is a little bit better on influence than they are on I don't know. I guess
Yeah.
the way the influence is distributed is a little bit weird.
Right.
But yeah, I'm going to ban Necro.
Okay.
Don't want to play against
I
them.
want to talk about that choice a little bit because I do think it is weird.
Let's
I
do
think I and we'll do this in future drafts. We're going to do this a couple times here, but I think there is an argument for Necro in Little Brother solely because that alpha wormhole is right in front of you, and so you have this extra option of jumping across the map and getting tech from 2 more people pretty easily. So were it me, and maybe next time I'll be in that position, I might go for that. That's just a thought.
Let's say that second player, that character I'm playing, is scared of Necro.
Yeah.
That is their.
Yeah.
That is their.
They don't feel them. They don't feel that's not Magi sitting here. They've seen Magi's guide and they kind of go, that's not how I play this game. I don't hit it on that level. I'm more afraid of Necro than I am willing to play Necro. So I just rather get rid of it. All right. So next up is player number 3. This is where things get to kind of break down. We talked about the map being like, there's a best and then all the way around to worst slice. But there are 3 slices in the middle that are actually doing kind of a different thing. They're not just obviously better and worse. They are numerically. If you add up the total available influence and resources and all that stuff, there is a best and then a worst slice. But the big difference is Turtle's Paradise, which is the one I would most assume I would end up in if the slices were balanced that way, is a pretty normally even slice. Like it has just about as many resources as it has influence. And then Daddy Warbucks is almost all resources, and the green position, which is Gashfather Part 3, is almost all influence. So you actually end up making really different types of decisions in these 3 positions, because now I'm starting to think about what am I actually thinking I might end up with, right? I'm third pick. The 4 best factions have not been banned yet.
None of them have been banned.
Am I worried about them, or do I think there's a chance I could end up with one of them? No, I don't, because I've got 2 people also picking factions before me. So any really great factions I let through right now aren't getting to me, and they're just getting put into somebody else's hands. So my big thing I have to start thinking about is what slice do I actually want to try to end up in, and how do I want to deal with that? So with that all in mind, I think I'm generally most afraid of either Nalu or Clanisar, right? Like we need to bite that bullet. We got to get that done. And if anything, I think SAR is the scariest thing because who knows what's going to happen. I mean, SAR, if SAR were left in this draft, blue or purple might get it. And if I, for some reason, end up in yellow or whatever, then I'm maybe actually close enough to SAR for that to be a problem. So I think I'm going to ban SAR.
Yeah. What's interesting about the spot that you just did is you sort of are in a position of not actually getting to pick your slice a little bit.
Right.
Unless you're one of those weird people that think Lil Brudder isn't that bad.
Right.
Which you might be. You might decide
the prevailing line of thought there is maybe yellow's not that much better than Lil Brudder, and at least with Lil Brudder, I get second strategy card pick. I can way more rely. I can plan out a solution. I can plan a faction out because I'll know probably what strategy card I'm going to get if I go for that. So I kind of do get that. Like, I'm going to pick Lil Brudder over yellow over Turtle's Paradise. But you're right though that player number 3 really has no idea yet what slice they're going to end up in because there's lots of people going before them. Right.
Okay, and then now we are on 4th player, which is me. I like this position because I have a lot of slice options. I'm going to get to choose between 2 of the mid-tier slices and then like a Lil Brudder if I decided I wanted to do that. But we still haven't banned Nalu or Jolnar. And at this point, I don't feel like I can risk not kind of falling in line, basically. And I think if I was actually playing in the tournament, I would probably have like a Nalu must be banned. And if it looks like there's even a world where Nalu makes it through, because right now, in all likelihood, one of the top 4 might make it through. Because literally everybody would have to do everything exactly perfect in order for the top 4 to completely not make it through.
The big question...
So I'm just going to... Mm-hmm.
Yeah, go. You're saying you're going to maybe do Nalu, and I think the big question too that this person considers is what slice am I most likely to end up in, and what is if a best faction gets through, it's going to go over to blue, probably blue or purple. Yes. Now I can engineer a situation where I'm sitting opposite of them, and they aren't a big issue to me. But which of those big factions am I more comfortable with being on the table and not having have to deal with? and who do I not? And I think Nalu is the right pick there because it's like, you know what? Nalu can just win regardless of my interest level in them or my ability to do anything about them or whatever. Nalu's just such a wild card in their ability to win the game that, that makes a lot of sense to me to toss them out.
And also, just to like kind of even go further on that, I am the first one numerically that is sitting in a spot where, there's 3 of the top 4 here, but I literally can't get them.
Yes.
Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Even if they stay in,
they are all
there's going to be 3 people that pick. Yeah.
Yeah. What is most threatening? Basically.
None of these are going to end up in my hand, so there's no reason for me to let the really good ones go through, really at all.
Right.
So I ban Nalu.
Yeah. So next up is me, player number 5. I am going to get first pick of the mid-tier slices because the big assumption is that player 6 is going to take best one. Sometimes they don't, and we'll probably do a draft where we decide to act a little crazy. But for this one, we're kind of assuming the most basic of behavior, and so my big assumption is player number 6 is going to take the best one. But I don't have to take Gashfather Part 3. So I'm looking at the factions that are starting to be available, and I'm thinking about what's going to even possibly make it to me and what my big threats are. You know, if we're talking about Sol and Jolnar being a big issue, what am I most worried about getting rid of? I think for me, I'm leaning towards Jolnar, but I'm trying to come up with a situation of what slice might I actually end up in. Because the big thing is, I get whatever I can take whatever I want. I just won't have a very good choice of faction. There's going to be lots more factions gone before it gets to me.
Can I throw something out here real quick? We did one warm up mock draft before we started, and I was in this almost exact position. Mm-hmm. And what I ended up deciding was I'm not going to ban Jolnar because I'm going to force the next player to not even get a ban.
Right. It really comes down to
be like, well,
am I threatened by Sol? Do I feel threatened by a Sol player? If Sol is in blue, I don't think I'm that threatened by Sol. Sol in blue is like not the greatest thing in the world. It can do fine. It can do well. But I have the ability to make that the opposite side of it's almost definitely going to be the opposite side of the map from me, or at the very least the neighbor of my neighbor. So maybe Sol is something I actually want to happen, right? Because I want Sol to encroach on the slice of the best one, who is my other. If I decide to take green, like I want to knock the best one down a peg, and Sol seems like a great way to do that. And I want them to have to ban Jolnar.
Here's the problem though. I would be scared that Speakeasy would start thinking about grabbing Hakan and not Sol.
Yeah, I mean Hakan's great. Mentak. There are certain players that are always just straight up worried about Hakan and Mentak in the same way that we said our second player was worried about Necro. Right? Yeah. There's just like I don't want to mess with that. There are plenty of players that are just like I don't want to mess with Hakan. I don't want to mess with Mentak. I'm not feeling that right now though. I think actually I am kind of feeling the Hakan thing. That's the biggest thing right now. Yeah. Is I'm not going to get a great faction, and I really don't want a Hakan on the other side of the table. Maybe I do want Hakan on the other side of the table. I don't like that. That makes them maybe likely to trade with me. But I think I'm just going to go with a gut, and I'm gonna throw out Hakan.
So
and then
you're banning Hakan,
accepting that Sol is probably going to get in this game, but that Sol will hopefully apply pressure to the player in the best one.
Yeah. So, what's interesting about this is now I am player 6, and I do feel like this works in that I feel like I am forced to ban Jolnar.
Yeah.
Because even if, it's interesting because you're saying like, oh, like Sol might really mess me up, like, because I'm going to be the player sitting at the best one. It's still not worth it to me to let that player have Jolnar instead. I would rather contend with Sol than have Jolnar in the game, I think.
Right.
Personally, I mean, I don't know. Do you see any reason that I would let Speakeasy have Jolnar?
No, I don't think so. Nah. I don't think it's worth it. Jolnar
it
makes
really
too many gains off of just existing. So I do not think it's worth it.
So I ban Jolnar, basically. Okay.
So now it's your turn.
Now we're
going to
go in reverse order, and I'm not doing anything fancy this time. I'm going for the best one.
Okay, so it's my turn. They took the best one, obviously. I am now really, really having to consider, like, do I actually just want this green slice with a lot of influence, or is there something else I'm needing to prepare to be up against? I'm going to be second to last pick of factions. Sol's going to get through. I'm assuming Sol's going to get picked before me. I look at things like L1 is probably going to get picked before me. They're still available, so that's not an option.
Right.
Isarl, Mentak, Extra, Ghosts all jump out to me as things that might get picked before me, but it's really hard
Yin
to
might
tell.
come your
Yin
way.
might get picked. Any of those things like could end up being mine. So I need to pick kind of like the most versatile approach. To be honest with you, man, I'm making the argument for putting myself in yellow first, just because at the very least it's like a pretty fair slice. If I'm picking this late in the order, do I really have any idea if I'm going to be able to get a faction that can survive with no influence or with no resources?
I get it. You have no idea what faction you're in.
Yeah. I think, if anything, I'm looking at this as like a map design flaw. I almost wish I had kind of boosted the numbers of this yellow slice and made yellow just a decently even thing too. But no, I like that this decision is forced to happen.
Can I throw out an alternate theory?
Sure.
I think personally, if I was in your position, I might think about taking
Green,
Gashfather Part 3.
Heavy influence.
Because I don't think that there's another good Yin slice, personally.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's a Lil Brother, maybe.
Yeah, but Little Brother might have... Little Brother's more likely to take Soul or L1Z1X.
Exactly. So I think if you take Gashfather, you could kind of gamble that you're going to get Yin.
Yeah.
And then if you don't get Yin, you'll probably get...
I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold that line of logic for a future draft, and I'm going to stick with my gut on this one, and I'm going to pick that yellow slice. I'm going to pick Turtles Paradise just because I want something a little bit reliable.
Yeah. Okay, so now it is my turn. I'm player number 4. Where do I... So I have to do kind of the same logic. I got a lot of choices. I'm also going to assume that I'm definitely not getting Soul, probably not getting L1. But there's only going to be one more pick before me. So who do I think they're going to pick? Maybe Sarl. But you know what?
Totally.
You kind of already took
I took the basic slice. The big thing you have to consider is, do you want resources or influence, you know? And based on the factions available to you, what could you do well in is the way I kind of think. You know, you have to lean into either an all resource or an all influence kind of thing.
I kind of feel like in this setup, Daddy Warbucks looks a little stupid to me.
Yeah.
Because what faction is it that's just going to shine in Daddy Warbucks that we got here?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
it's like basically only maybe Extra, and I don't even know if I consider Extra something that shines, period. I don't know if that's where my head's at. So
I'm going to take Gashfather Part 3.
Yeah, lean into the heavy influence and hope for maybe a Yin or hope for something that can rely on
and that. The way this is shaping up, I feel like you Matt now have a real choice between Lil Brother and
there's a real world where I know I'm third faction pick. I have a pretty open slate to what I could pick, but do I want to have second strategy card pick instead? Do I want to take Little Brother solely so that I can be a decent thing there? It's a worse slice than Daddy Warbucks, but I think
you might put L1 in Daddy Warbucks, which
I don't love that. And if anything, I don't mind being in Daddy Warbucks because I'm looking at it. I could be a Sarl, I could be Extra, I could be Sardak, I could be Mentak. I think any of those factions will be okay. Even Ghosts with that beta wormhole, I could play any of those factions in Daddy Warbucks and probably figure it out.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna take as the third player, fourth slice pick. I'm taking Daddy Warbucks.
Okay, so I am player number 2. I am not going to do something dumb like take Speakeasy.
Right.
I don't want to. Well, so let's see. If I took Speakeasy,
you would be handing speaker to, or you would be you'd be picking last.
I'd be picking last.
Is the thing.
That's the bad part.
You know you're picking. You're picking. You know that white is the speaker. That's the big thing.
I have to get that second pick.
Yep. Nothing else matters anymore. And then of course, player number 1, speaker, is left with Speakeasy. So we are now all in our positions, and it's time to pick factions for those positions, which means I now go first. I am the speaker. I know I'm going to get my first pick of strategy card. I'm getting my faction pick right now. And I'm looking at things, and I'm seeing that there's a world where Soul can just have instant access to Warfare round 1, and that looks really juicy to me. I don't know the objectives or anything yet, but the ability to take my slice and then maybe warfare the token off of Cornique Resculon and go take Barragler to 4 before whoever is in best it's one potent. Can get it is a pretty big deal. And that's hyper aggressive, but my thinking is Speakeasy, that's the game you play. You're in the aggressive slice. You got to go do... If you're going to just try to turtle and Speakeasy, you're going to lose because everybody has more stuff than you. So why waste your time? You got to make bold moves. So I'm going to pick the Federation of Soul for Speakeasy.
Yeah, I like it. So I'm player number 2, who is... The guy that I've decided is kind of weird at this table, because he did ban Necro just arbitrarily. I wonder, Matt, if there's an argument for taking Mentak right now, instead of not taking L1. Well, instead being like, I like this wormhole here.
Red Skip is kind of fun. You could opt for a War Sun Mentak. I don't think that's what you, Hunter, would aim for. But
no, but it is possible.
Yeah.
In fact, it's something I feel like right now I could kind of lean into the chaos of it. Because the thing is, this is also the only slice where I would play Ghosts at this table, basically.
Right.
Maybe Daddy Warbucks. But I don't feel like, with like what I'm looking at, is it even going to be much of a trade game, though? There's going to be Soul's got 4 commodities. Extra
Ghosts,
will
if they're
probably get in.
Extra or Ghosts will have 4. Asara will have 3, Yin will have 3, Sardak will have 3. It'll be fine. It's not like all dumpster commodities left.
Yeah, I kind of feel like I would take Mentak at this point. I don't feel like I can justify it very good right now, but it does make sense. It just makes more sense to me than L1.
It's that wormhole
I feel like
thing.
I can kick the... Yeah, it's really just the wormhole. Makes me feel like positionally, I could do a lot of damage as Mentak. I'm going to be able to pillage...
Yep.
I could pillage right away... the best one and the Gashfather,
right?
Basically, which that's too worth it. Okay. I'm taking Mentak.
All right, I'm the next one to pick. I put myself in Daddy Warbucks. I've got lots of resources, but basically no influence. My options for factions right now are Arborek, Muwat, Ghosts of Krius, L1Z1X, Sardak Nor, the Winu, Excha, Yin, and Isarl. And if I'm looking at all of that, who do I think benefits the most from just sheer dollars? I'm a little bit blown away that Hunter didn't pick L1Z1X, and I definitely don't want either of my neighbors to be L1Z1X. That seems like threatening. I can afford lots of dreadnoughts with my lots of money.
Can I throw out some logic real quick?
Sure.
Because I probably should have said this.
Sure.
I feel like L1 is gonna suck in Daddy Warbucks, and here's why. You have no influence on your home system at all.
Yeah.
You just have $5.
Yep.
So all you have is dollars. Your round 1 influence situation is you have 1 influence in Quan.
Yep.
That's it. End of story.
Yep.
End of talk, basically.
Right.
And I feel like that's a really big hurdle, really big handicap.
Maybe. Yeah.
Now, it could bite me in the butt because I feel like where L1 might end up now is going to be wild, but...
Yeah. I think my gut reaction is to stick with taking L1 and just plan on getting command counters elsewhere. I'll just try to take leadership as I'm 4th pick. There's a pretty real chance I can start with leadership. In Daddy Warbucks, I'm the 4th to pick strategy card. Nobody else might take leadership before me, so I could at least start by compensating with that. And even if I don't, I can take politics and get leadership next turn. So I'm gonna take L1 and see how they survive in Daddy Warbucks.
Yeah.
I think L1 is a faction that could just sit in Daddy Warbucks as a slice and turtle a little bit and then strike out late game and maybe pull things off. Maybe be okay.
Okay. So now I am 4th player. I'm sitting in the Gashfather. I have the picks I'm really considering are Isarl, Yin, Muwat even.
Yeah, Gashfather, Muwat,
and
can pull some stuff.
That's kind of it. I'm not really the rest are like, well, there's Winu and Arborek, of course,
right.
Ghost, Sardak, and Excha. I'm feeling. So what's interesting is if I don't take Yin, I bet nobody really takes Yin. Although Yin isn't horrible
Yin
in the
can
best
do just
one.
fine in best one. Yin can honestly do not horrible in Turtles Paradise. It's not perfect. It's not a great setup for them, but it's certainly not the end of the world.
I think it's a poor setup for them. Yeah. They don't have enough mobility to make that work.
And they don't have any 0 or 1. They have no 2 influence planets, so that gets annoying.
Yeah. So for me, really, right now, it's probably between Isarl and Yin, maybe Muai if I'm feeling spicy.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to go with Yin, though. I think it's a good Yin slice. I like it.
Yeah. All right, so next up is the person who took that wild choice to take Turtles Paradise second instead of something with more sheer dollars. So this one is a balanced slice. I have a green skip. My options are Isarl, Extra, Sardak, Ghosts, Arborek, and Winnu. I have that weird gravity rift in between me and L1Z1X now. I'm kind of worried about L1. Are they going to encroach on me, or am I just going to never be able to take their stuff? I'm kind of almost already considering maybe I'm going to do my support for the throne swap with L1Z1X because I just don't want that to be an issue all game. Which means, okay, I'm looking at Mentak as a possible direction to expand in. They've got... if I go that direction, I can get a second industrial, and then New Albion, Arnor Lore. Arnor Lore are 2 industrial plants. I could get 4 of the same trait if that objective came up. So who is a faction that could maybe pull some aggression and could benefit from a green skip? And I'm leaning a little bit towards maybe Ghosts, maybe Sardak Nor, maybe Isarl. Those are my top 3s right now for this Turtles Paradise pick. It's funny that I didn't pick the Turtles, but I don't. I mean, that would be one response to the L1Z1X, right? Is be equally defensive, but sure. I don't think that gets me as far because the one issue with Turtles Paradise is it's kind of one of the worst setups in terms of achieving tech skips in addition to planet trait stuff. So if those control objectives come up, I'm in kind of a tough spot to accomplish them. So I would rather be something with a little bit of get up and go power.
The situation between these slices down here is going to be really tenuous because we've got Yin and L1 as neighbors, and everybody's going to want to support swap with L1. Yep. Like Yin is going to want to support swap with L1.
You know what? Here's what I'm thinking then. If I can't guarantee a support swap, the one thing I can aim for, and I don't have great tech skips for it, but Sardak Nor, if I can get extra Trireme 2s, those L1Z1X Dreadnoughts aren't as big of a threat to me. I can just wipe them out.
That's a good point.
And it gives me the ability to choose some mobility. I could go get that blue skip if I wanted. Blue, green as my 2 skips are pretty awesome. Nice. If I can go take Thibba before Mentak does or whatever, and maybe I can pull off that fight, I think I'm going to take Sardak in Turtles Paradise, which feels a little wild, but I feel like I was left with almost no other options.
Yeah, we got weird there. I like that we've already gotten weird even on the first mock draft. So I'm picking last. I'm the 6th player. I'm in the best one, and my choices are Isarl, Ghost, Extra, Muat, and then those 2 bad ones that I'm not gonna pick. Isarl is the strongest of those 4.
There's a super clean path for Extra to park next to Mechatol. That Barraglota 4 adjacent to Mechatol.
Yeah.
Drop a space dock, lots of production, have the flagship there. You've got lots of money to afford it. You've got a yellow skip.
Yeah.
You've got plenty of influence that they need. I think
my only concern is that I might need the wiggle room of Muat or Isarl because I'm probably going to get some early soul aggression.
Mm-hmm.
And Yin is also... I'm stuck in between 2 people that are good at fighting me on the ground, which feels like...
But could you shoot them out of the sky with PDS? Or you're saying you think they might supersede that? I mean, Yin with their Devotion Destroyers could really ruin your flagship's day. That's for sure.
Yeah. I feel like I need something stronger than Extra. I feel like I feel like Extra is like... Because I'm last... Well, and what's nice, that does mean I'm going to start with Construction and just go ahead and likely get ahead with the PDS. I'm just afraid of Soul making a move on Barraglota 4, and if I'm playing as Extra, it's like, how am I going to remove them?
Right.
You know? Like...
Yeah.
And then... Yeah, I don't know. This is tough. This is really tough. I don't like being in between Yin and Sol. Like, that is
ground
that
force
is
problem.
not cool.
I'm gonna put the argument that I don't think Yssarl's the get then, because you definitely don't have anything to deal with ground forces. I mean, like, you're gonna go down green tech, but you're not gonna get like Daxit. You're not doing any of that stuff. You're getting all the other green tech. Yeah, you could get X89 late game, but that seems a dumb thing to rely on.
No, that's ridiculous. That's
Muat
ridiculous.
actually feels like actually not a bad pick, because if you can just bombard all their infantry off planets, you don't have to deal with that. But the War Suns are also susceptible to that devotion. So, but you could have, I don't know. That's a really tough one for me. I would go with Extra or Muat. That yellow skip is more helpful for Extra than it is Muat.
Yeah, that's.
And I'm really susceptible to that Barragler 4 space dot. Now you're right that Sol might take Barragler 4 and I might never get it back from them. I might never just be able to get that.
I don't know how. Like, if I was Muat, I'm like, all right, I got a War Sun. I can probably keep Barragler 4.
Yeah.
But then Barragler 4 is, I mean, it's still useful.
That's a really strong argument, honestly. If Sol is going to threaten some aggression to take Barragler 4 early, your best answer to that is, well, I'm moving my War Sun out to directly adjacent to Barragler 4, and if you have any intention of sticking around on Barragler 4, the War Sun's coming in next turn. So, that can be your, shake a big stick kind of thing of like, don't come in here because I'll deal with it. Whereas Extra doesn't have that answer.
No, and I think the world where Sol is here and Extra gets to put their space dock on Barrag,
it just gets taken.
That's not going to happen.
Yep.
Like, that's it, and it might happen late, but it's not going to happen quickly.
Right. If it had been any other faction, if it had been literally any other faction in Speakeasy, I would have gone Extra. But actually, I
can't
see
believe
the
I'm
point.
saying it. I'm picking Muat.
I love it.
Can't believe I'm saying it.
All right. So again, the game that we just ended up with is the Federation of Sol in Speakeasy, the Mentak Coalition in Little Brother, Sardak Nor in Turtles Paradise, L1Z1X in Daddy Warbucks, Yin Brotherhood in Gashfather Part 3, and the Embers of Muat in the best one.
Crazy.
I dig it. I dig it a lot. So let's do the next thing we promised. Let's see now. Let's see what gets us into the next round. We're gonna reveal 2 publics and just see how everyone feels things shook out for this first draft. So our first public objective is Intimidate the Council, 2 adjacent to Mechatol Rex, and our second one is 2 unit upgrades. So a little bit of area control and a little bit of tech. Everybody but Sardak Nor is excited. Sardak Nor is super mad at 2 unit upgrades.
This sucks. Sardak Nor is not going to win this game.
Right.
Already.
Well, I've got that blue and green skip. If I can, my new goal as Sardak Nor is lock down Thibba and get blue green skips, because then I can take, I can get those 2 upgrades. I can do that. I can get infantry 2 and carrier 2.
Right.
That actually isn't that big of a deal. It's not going to happen by like round 3. It might happen exactly in round 3, but it's going to be hard. But now we've seen these 2 objectives. Sol is up first, and Sol is sticking with their plan. Warfare seems pretty good. I could pretty easily get 2 adjacent to Mechatol Rex and score that point, and I can make deals with Embers of like, hey, I'm gonna go park above Barragler 4, but then I am gonna bail, but I'm going there so that I can have 2 adjacent to Mechatol. Or I could redivert my plan and go get in Arnor Lore in the way of Mentak if I want, if Muat starts to freak me out too much. So Sol is gonna take Warfare.
Yeah, definitely makes sense. Mentak, I think Mentak wants tech.
Probably. I would say tech or trade here. Trade is a way to get on a good foot with these people. If you're going to send something through the alpha to go do stuff with Yin and Muat, Muat is your only 4. I mean, Sol and Muat are your only 4 commodity
What's
factions.
interesting here is if I don't take trade, I feel like Sardak is going to take trade.
And vice versa.
Sardak is not going to trade in such a way to where I can really pillage off of it.
Right.
So I'm not going to get any extra money if I don't take trade now. And Sardak is definitely going to want to take tech if I leave them tech.
Yeah, there's an element here that we're missing of people negotiating this with actual other players. There's a world here where Mentak starts talking to Yin and Muat and is like, hey, can we make a thing happen if I send a cruiser through the alpha? And can we work together on this? And we have no idea what that would play out like. So a whole negotiation would happen here before we actually know what like the perfect pick for Mentak is.
But I think the safe play in this spot is trade.
Yeah. Sardak Nor 100% is taking tech. No, there's no other option in my mind.
Yep.
I'm super happy to see that make it to me. Was not expecting that, and we'll jump at the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Next
I just
up,
didn't want you to have trade.
Yeah.
I think, would you have picked trade if I had picked tech?
if you'd taken tech, it would have been either trade or politics. I would have maybe talked through, do I want politics here? Politics into technology next round.
Well, okay, I'll go even further. For this to be a good round one for Mentak, to not take trade,
right.
I would need trade to make it all the way to Yin or
Yeah,
Muad.
yeah, your big thing
And
is your
that's not
Mentak.
gonna
You have
happen.
one carrier, you don't have gravity drive, and your 2 planets adjacent to you are single planet systems. You are getting almost no planets round one, which means you just need to get money somewhere else round one.
Yep.
I think that's
sucks.
the strongest argument. You have to send that cruiser somewhere to make some friends because you're not getting any other planet progress this round.
Yep. Yeah, Mentak was probably a poor choice here.
In this
actually.
slice. Oh,
Yeah,
we'll
and
see.
Little Brother.
Well, we won't see, but whatever. All right, so now I've done my Sardak, but now I'm also L1 in Daddy Warbucks. And I told myself leadership was probably a necessary thing. I could do politics, but if I leave politics for Yin, I might be able to buy that token off of Yin for something. I might be able to do some sort of promise. So I want to not hurt myself too bad, and I'm just going to go ahead and pick leadership and build up a little safety net for my influence.
Yeah, and I am just surprised that politics made it this far, and I'm going to take it. But I guess it made sense because L1 had such a need for leadership.
For the leadership, yeah.
Yeah.
There's an argument where I could have taken politics, not sold the speaker token to Sardak, and taken leadership next turn.
Sure.
I could have thought that through a bit more, and maybe I would have gone with that. But I'm just kind of.
But also,
this has already been 47 minutes, so let's just go with leadership.
Oh, has it really? Oh my God. Well, I will say this: in the situation that you have picked, you might get speaker token.
I could still
and
get leadership again
right now.
Yep.
So
I
you'd
could
be ahead.
absolutely still really save my command counter economy in the early game.
Right, which you're probably going to need.
Yep.
Oh, and
Muat
takes construction.
There's no reason to do Diplo in the best one. It's actually not a good Diplo slice for anyone who's going to even try to make the Diplo argument. And construction is not too bad. Getting some early PDS, if anything, I think makes a lot of sense. If Soul's going to continue to be a thorn in your side, if you just drop 2 PDS in the middle of your slice, you might be all right.
Cool. All right, that was our first.
We did it. That's the first one. That was a
draft.
long one. We're gonna do some more, but we're gonna do them much, much quicker. Now that you
you
get the logic, we don't have to talk through. I think the rest as much. We kind of just want to see now how a bunch of things play out. I think we're gonna actually kind of do some speed rounds now.
All right, so we have a new order. I'm gonna be the first player this time, and we kind of last time we did like back and forth. Now it's a little bit messier, but I'm playing the first player, so I am the guy that needs to ban the 7th best. And I really like Barony or L1, I think, for this just in general. And last time we did Barony, so I think this time I'm going to do L1, basically.
Yeah, just get rid of something pretty good. And
pretty good standard. Or Hakan. It's either Barony, L1, or Hakan.
But there's always a chance that you could end up with Hakan.
That's true.
And this is a slice where Hakan could save you. Hakan could save you from having a trouble in this slice.
And I don't really want to be Barony or L1 in Speakeasy.
I think Barony and L1 do pretty poorly here, but Hakan would actually kind of
Hakan
get
and
you out.
Soul are like I think your targets.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to ban L1.
I think that's a really smart thing you just said. I super dig that. Speakeasy is aiming for Hakan or Soul. They really hope that happens. If neither of those two are options, it gets a little dicier. But those two are like, oh, I can do just fine here if that happens. All right, next up, you're also player number 2, Hunter.
Oh yes. So I'm sitting at Little Brother. So I am kind of wanting to ban. I'm thinking about what Speakeasy might get. Barony is still in, so I didn't really get counterpicked there. I would like to be Barony and Little Brother, so I'm not going to ban Barony.
Yeah.
That would be cool if I get that. So actually, considering the logic we just had, you know what I might do?
I agree with this completely.
I might get Soul out already.
Even though they're a top 4. I mean, I could see the Hakan decision as well here, because you could think somebody else is going to get rid of Soul. And at the very least, you can get rid of a problem Hakan. But maybe you're of the mentality that, like, you know what, Hakan could just help make me money. I don't know.
Yeah, and I also don't know for sure that I'm going to get Barony.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's
like,
true.
I have a lot of uncertainty right now. But one thing, and I just feel like because there's a precedent of this.
Well, doesn't Soul do well in Little Brother too, though? I mean, a highway to Mechatol. If there's a world where you could end up with Soul, maybe you just don't believe that would ever happen.
I just don't believe it. Right now I don't believe it, and I've got too much uncertainty. Okay. And I'm saying like what I want right now at this player, and this player's maybe being a little too arbitrary. But what I want is to be Barony and Lil Brother. And if I'm Barony and Lil Brother, I'd rather deal with Hakan and Speakeasy instead of Soul and Speakeasy. Okay. So I'm going to ban Soul.
All right. Next up, player number 3. Player number 3 is now... Well, one of the things has been taken off. Soul. There's a little bit less pressure for me to ban a top 3 because there's 3 more players going after me. They got rid of the Soul problem. Am I the type of player that's worried about Hakan or Mentak? Do I care about either of those two? My average assumption is that I'm going to end up in Turtles Paradise. Obviously, that wasn't true last time. But being in Turtles Paradise... Mentak could be okay for me. That's usually another like problematic faction that people are like, I don't want to see Mentak in this game, but I could be that person in this game picking third. So I don't want to ban Mentak. I think I don't want to just like do another draft where we get rid of Necro because then we'll never get to see it. But I think it actually is pretty true that Necro is a top tier ban, and there's a good chance that either I'm in Daddy Warbucks or I'm adjacent. There's a 1/3 chance I'm in Daddy Warbucks, and there's a 2/3 chance I'll be adjacent to Daddy Warbucks. I want to not deal with Necro. I will ban
Wow.
Necro.
Oh dear. Okay, so that was I think this has been pretty wild thus far. Mm-hmm. Because the problem is now we've got Nalu and Jolnar and Sar.
Yep, you gotta get rid of them.
So what I'm saying is the 3 of you have already messed this up for the rest of us. Right. And now I like if I was at this table, I would be very annoyed and I would be like, well, okay, I guess I just have to ban Nalu, and I don't really have a choice.
Right.
And then I have to hope the rest of you aren't idiots.
I hope the rest of us play ball. Well, I definitely think. Let's see if I'm picking second slice. There's a good chance I'm ending up in Gashfather or Daddy Warbucks, or again, it's that situation where I can pick whatever I want, but I won't be best one. So there's a world where I don't want to maybe I'm okay with Sar. I want yellow.
God.
Well, here's the thing. I want white to have to ban Sar. I don't need to help white out by banning Sar because blue is probably who's going to get Sar. So blue will be adjacent to the best one. I would love for Sar to eat up the best one.
Yeah, maybe. I want to reiterate though that the factions we banned thus far are L1, Soul, Necro, and Nalu. Yep. Jolnar and Sar are both still in.
Yes, yeah.
So basically, if you do some sort of like, I'm putting the best one in a weird situation, you might be letting in...
Yeah. I'm gonna roll the dice. Well, and especially because I'm picking next too anyway. Me as 2 different people are picking next. But I'm going to ban Jolnar because I do still think Jolnar is a major threat. But if the best one wants to let Sar through because they're crazy and have a penchant for their own destruction, then that's up to them. But now
I see what you're saying.
I'm going 6th. I'm assuming I know I'm going to get the best one. I'm picking the best slice, and I certainly don't want Sar to be a thorn in my side because they would just literally abandon their slice and come into mine. I cannot let that happen. So Sar is gone. So our bans were L1, Soul, Necro, Nalu, Jolnar, and Sar. Pretty similar to last time. We swapped out Barony for L1 and that's it?
Yeah.
You and I are maybe too predictable. I don't know if this is exactly the bans every time.
Well,
let's 4 of them are predictable. Next time we're going to get weird.
Yeah, next time we're going to get weird, and we should assign each other weird personalities.
Yeah. All right, but let's keep going. Speed round. I'm obviously taking best one. Next person gets second to last pick. I don't want to do what I did last time, just because I don't want to follow that same run of logic. Looking at the things that could happen to me, you know what? I'm going to play as Matt Martins here, and Matt Martins believes that influence is the most important thing at the table and that you can find ways around getting money. There's also Hakan still out there. There's a chance that Hakan makes it to the table because they didn't get banned, which means if I play my cards right, I can make money off of Hakan. So I want a faction with good commodities that can make money, and I want to park in Gashfather Part 3. So I'm going to do that. I'm aiming for something with decent commodities where I'm a good trade partner for Hakan.
Okay. So now it's me. I have a lot of choices actually right now. This is kind of a toughie.
Yeah.
Because I could go to Turtles Paradise. I could go to Daddy Warbucks. Daddy Warbucks, huh? Daddy Warbucks could be really strange. Daddy Warbucks scares me because I don't like low influence slices.
Yeah. I think that's something with you and I that is just a thing. And I think there's plenty of other players that are like, I'm good with it. I'm fine.
And Necro's out. Not going to get Hakan if I pick Daddy Warbucks. I think I might skip and go straight for Turtles Paradise. Okay. Looking at the factions that we have left, and also I have like a decently high level of uncertainty as far as what I'm going to end up with.
Speaker order.
I'd rather go for Turtle.
Yeah. I think this is part of this map is that these three middle slices are certainly not as simple to define. It really comes down to the player preference. I think a lot of people want to make the argument that yellow is the best of the three, and I don't think that's a bad argument. I wouldn't put up a fight against that because the other two are so specific.
Right.
So now I'm the third pick player, the fourth to do a slice, and I have to look at everything and go, do I want to do Daddy Warbucks or do I want to get second pick in speaker order?
Right. And go to Little
however,
Brother.
if I do that, let's say I took Little Brother, do I open up a situation where the next person to go actually takes Speakeasy over Daddy Warbucks? Probably not, right? That would be crazy.
I don't know. It could be.
They would be handing Speaker to the other side of the table.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be nuts. But...
Yeah, I don't think I'm actually afraid of that. I think it's kind of a safe bet to take. But if I take Little Brother right now and hope for a good strategy card, I'm not getting a very good pick of faction. But I might be able to block the barony in Little Brother by being there myself. Someone else might take barony. Now, am I afraid of barony in
getting in Daddy Warbucks?
In Daddy Warbucks. I don't think that freaks me out. A barony with just lots more money? They already have lots of money.
They already have a lot of money.
Are they the biggest threat in the world?
See, this was kind of my logic with like getting L1 to have to pick Daddy Warbucks. Right. As I was like, well, what do I care? L1 already starts a lot of resources. And in fact, if anything, I'd rather them have a whole bunch of resources and no influence.
Right.
Trying to figure out that situation.
Last big question, though, is, I mean, it's a bad start in Little Brother. Those two single planet systems adjacent to home is not good.
And also coupled with your faction pick, like
I'm fourth pick. Can I survive with like not a great choice here? And
I mean the top three right now are Hakan, Barony, and like
I'm gonna quit messing around. I'm not that threatened by Barony as the neighbor of my neighbor. Yeah. And I need to just I need to get something that will be more reliable than what Little Brother will be. So I will take the correct choice of Daddy Warbucks. Hunter?
Yeah. I'm player number 2, and I'm going to keep it simple and go for Little Brother. I'm basically forced to.
Yep. And then player number 1.
And then player number 1 just is stuck in Speakeasy.
Yep. All right, so it's faction time.
Yeah. So I'm player number 1. I think my choices are basically Hakan and Barony. And I think it's just got to be Hakan. Hakan is too solid of a slice, and I did it. I engineered it.
You got the
I got one of my 2 targets, right. And I had very little say in it.
Yeah.
Second pick, again, like I kind of got exactly what I said I wanted, which was Little Brother with Barony. Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah, I think that
engineered
works.
Some stuff this time, which
so
was good.
Third pick, Daddy Warbucks. I have lots of money.
Oh wait, hold up.
Holding up.
I did not anticipate Mentak making it this far, and now I could pick to be Mentak in Little Brother.
You just made this. You just made this decision last draft, and you said, "Ooh, actually, maybe I don't love Mentak in this slice." Though, keep that.
But this is different.
I don't think it's. Oh, you're just saying next to Hakan.
I'm next to Hakan.
Yeah.
I can go through the alpha. I can pillage. My pillage could get off the chain. Nuts.
Yeah.
Oh, dude.
I don't know, man. I think you're talking yourself too much into Mentak. It'd be the same.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna do it because it's the same thing that I did this last time. Yeah. But I think there could have been an argument
it's worth pointing out that option there. That based on how everything shook out, Mentak might have wanted to end up in the same slice solely because of the player position of who's next to them, less about everything else. It was going to be a situation where they could make some real money. Again, maybe.
Yeah, I just don't want it to be too similar. So let's move forward.
Daddy Warbucks parked in a lot of money. I know Extra is a pretty common pick here for Daddy Warbucks.
Warbucks.
I don't like that. I think Extra actually needs the influence more than they just need a lot of money. The idea with a high resource Extra is you definitely can get that flagship out really quickly. But what I've noticed in Daddy Warbucks is sometimes getting the position of that flagship can kind of be difficult because you have trouble moving around as much because you don't have as many command counters. So I don't love that. The rest of my money could be used with Isarl or Yin. Obviously not like a picturesque Yin slice, but I could potentially take Wellin for at least one opportunistic indoctrination planet. Outside of that, Isarl doesn't really need tech skips, so the lack of tech skips doesn't hurt my feelings. And money certainly can help me get plastic on the board, which I think I, as a player, tend to suffer with as Isarl. I just forget to get the plastic down. And maybe I can build up a situation where I get the command counters later. I'm almost definitely going to get hypermetabolism pretty quickly. So
right.
I think I can make up for the influence problem by being Isarl with a high influence home system and a high likelihood of getting hypermetabolism early.
Those are some good thoughts right there. Yeah. I like that. That I did not expect you to pick that, but the logic you used is really, really solid. All right, so I'm in Turtles Paradise, and the factions I'm considering are. Oh, you know what though? I kind of want Mentak here, don't I?
What we're learning about Hunter today is he actually is like really kind of into playing Mentak in a tournament.
I have this weird like Mentak thing
I've never seen you.
on.
I don't even think I've ever seen you play Mentak, but like you keep itching for it.
Well, so I got a green skip.
Sure.
That's good.
Yeah, that's great. I love this slice for Mentak.
Yeah, I could park in the Rift and do that business. Which Isarl, how much trading is going to Well,
3 commodities.
Action card trading between Hakan and Isarl.
You betcha. They might do a lot of trading where they have no trade goods. They might only be trading small levels of trade goods for action cards.
That's possible, but they're going to have to play. So I'm considering Mentak.
You force them to playing against it, yeah.
I don't want to play. What's so funny about Yin is I really feel like Yin is just going to get either just left over or the Gashfather is going to be like, I'm taking Yin.
It's always going to be Gashfather or best one for Yin. That's my opinion. Those two slices
no
are
way.
Yin slices.
Even though it's a good faction, there's like no way I could play with them right now.
Yeah, because the thing is, Yin could do okay in Speakeasy, but Speakeasy, you always have something else on your mind. You're almost never going for Yin just because you're in like a weird different position. It's just not the place where you do it.
I might consider Krius for Promissory Note faction, meaning I'll probably get some Hakan action.
Yeah, definitely.
I kind of like Krius right now.
Yep. Yeah, and it's not a slice with wormholes, which means you just open up the amount of places you can go through. Like if you get your wormholes dropped down early, if you focus on getting your wormhole generator or your Krius IFF to get wormholes down, you could very easily just be all over the map in the late game if you play it safe early, which it's a safe slice to play early. I think you can park and kind of chill for a minute and then find opportunities later.
Here's my concern, though. I am in a position where I'm going to be playing a tournament game with a Hakan, and there's an Isarl in the game. So there's going to be a lot of trading happening probably between them, and it could get really wild, the trading that's going on there. If I don't pick Mentak now...
Someone else might.
No, I don't think anyone will. That's my fear. Is that they're
what's
not
wrong with that though?
Picked.
If you are Ghosts, you are the second most likely person to trade with Hakan. You and Isarl will get all the money. You could lock it all down.
That's true, but I feel like in that situation, I'm afraid of Hakan more now. Is the problem?
Okay.
But this is supposed to be faster, and I think counter picking at this point would maybe be kind of silly because I don't know what else is going to happen. I'm going to go with Ghost because I think it's going to be the best for me right now. Yeah. In the Turtles.
Okay.
Ghost and Turtles Paradise.
Okay, my turn, and I am player number 5. I'm in a heavy influence slice. What did you pick last time in this slice? You were the Yin. I could do Yin again, but I don't specifically want to do that. But man, it's just such a good Yin slice, huh?
It's really great Yin slice.
All that influence is pretty awesome.
And it's not good anywhere else. And I do feel like in this situation, if you don't take Yin, then you're going to be sitting next to Yin in the best one. Yeah,
the only other two arguments are Mentak. There's going to be so much trading at this table already. It's going
to take you a while to get there, though.
Mentak, well, I can jump through that. I don't know. Yeah. The asteroid field is pretty annoying for Mentak, too, because I'm not really planning to go blue tech. Xcha has an interesting relationship with this slice. The influence is great, but that asteroid field really messes you up. Kind of intentionally so, which is, I guess, maybe me hurting Xcha on purpose. Man, it's really hard to not to not do yin here. I think yin just succeeds so
I
well.
think it's yin or extra. It's either you take yin because of the aggressive possibilities,
Yep.
or you take extra so that you can be one of the trade partners.
I think I'm less afraid of something like extra in best one than I am of yin being in best one. So
Yep.
the ability for yin to lock down all those planets with their very, very good infantry is pretty scary. So
Yeah.
I can't let the best one get the Yin Brotherhood.
Also, you're across the table from Barony right now,
Yeah.
so like that's pretty
I
solid
got
for you.
nothing to be afraid of, yeah. And best one, final pick between Extra, Winu, Sardak, Mentak, Muwat, and Arborek. Mentak is a thing. I'm adjacent to the Hakan over here. There's a yellow
you can park
skip.
in that nebula and be super annoying.
I can park in the nebula, be super annoying. I have a yellow skip. That's a huge deal. I've got lots of money and influence to just kind of do everything I might need to do throughout the game. I think I want to do that. I think I want Mentak here.
Yeah. I'm not going to criticize it too much. I do feel like I'd be really scared of Yin if I was you.
Yeah.
If I was Mentak.
But I, my ambush versus their devotion is sort of a weird matchup there. Whoever the aggressor is kind of gets to call the shots. They're both start of combat abilities, so it's sort of just like either I fire 2 shots first or you blow up a thing first, maybe. If they get the tech. So
I'm not sure there was
okay.
a right answer there though, but I like what you did.
So there it is. We have Hakan in Speakeasy, Barony in Little Brother, Ghosts in Turtles Paradise, Isarl in Daddy Warbucks, Yin in Gashfather Part 3, and Mentak in The Best One. So let's, real quick, one more time, just to see how it feels, let's pick some strategy cards. Our first 2 public objectives, our own 2 tech and 2 colors, and 4 planets of the same trait. That's a big deal.
Nice.
We don't have a Sardak in the game, so no one's supremely mad about that tech objective there. But it might lead to a slower start because very few people are going to be able to do 4 planets of the same trait round 1. In fact, I'm pretty sure nobody can do that, which means we're all only focusing on our own normal setup. You know what I mean? Like this is playing almost vanilla TI in terms of like, what am I doing round 1? Trying to have a good slice. Yeah. So Hunter Donaldson, you are the Hakan in Speakeasy.
So I'm the Hakan in Speakeasy. I'm first pick. I think I'm going to play it safe and grab tech because I can probably diversify research on round 1. Likely.
Yeah, you could probably make $6.
Likely.
You can get your gravity drive, and then you can get graviton, I guess, huh?
Yep. Yeah, graviton's not great, but
you can get that tech done.
I score.
And
a
even
point,
if you don't go for it, you're still working towards it, and you're getting a good start. Tech at the very least gets you gravity drive for free.
I could get gravity drive for free, and then get like an early dread 2, and then be set up very nicely into round 2.
Yeah. So now you're up as Barony and Little Brother.
Barony and Little Brother, all's considered. Let's see.
Warfare gets you really close. Warfare gives you the best opportunity to take Mechatol round 2.
That's
the only thing in your way is the speaker token. Depending on where speaker token ends up, you might not get an early enough initiative. But other than that, Warfare Warfare helps you fill out your entire slice.
Yeah. I almost feel like I would want to try and take trade and like lock things down with me and Hakan. Like just be like, all right, you got to trade with me. And you're kind of desperate to get enough money.
Yeah.
I might take advantage of that. I like what you're saying though with setting up for Mechatol round 2.
And it's like the best way to fill out your slice, just in general.
Yeah, you're right. I have that problem. The problem is Little Brother is tough, so I have to take Warfare just to try and fix my situation.
Yep. Yeah, and if once you fix it too, like you're in a pretty good spot. You know what I mean? If you're, the thing about Little Brother is, yes, it has a really bad start if you have like a bad start faction, but as Barony, if you get all 4 of your planets round 1, you actually have one of the best starts. You have a 3-1, a 1-3, a 2-1, and a 1-2. You have 5 worth of like optimal value stuff here. You can do pretty well. So next up is Hunter. You again. We've engineered a situation where we're all 3 going against each other, right? You're the Ghost of Creus in Turtles Paradise. What do you take?
Yeah. So for me, it's either politics or trade at this point.
Trade seems pretty good.
Trade would be pretty cool. I would get a lot of trade goods. A lot of trade goods if I took trade.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the smart pick.
Yeah,
So I'm going to take trade.
too. And I think Isarl is not nearly as worried about the influence as our L1 player was last time. So I think politics is a pretty obvious get. For Isarl, start cycling action cards and set myself up for either the trade player is the player who wants to buy the speaker token. That seems like a great thing. I can get maybe 2 trade goods for the speaker token pretty much right away. And if they don't buy it from me, I get speaker next turn. So it's a win-win.
Right.
So then next up is the Yin Brotherhood. I see no reason to take construction. Leadership is funny because I don't need it in this slice. I'm gonna have plenty, but it doesn't hurt to get way ahead of it, And as Yin, I am more likely to at times want to use my influence for indoctrination instead of command counters in this slice. So getting on a good foot will put me even more in a balanced scenario in kind of the mid game. If I just start with 3 extra command counters and then I'm only maybe buying 1 per round instead of, the 3 that I could maybe buy per round. This is kind of a decent get.
Yeah, I think you just got to.
And then Mentak would love to get construction. If anything, at this point as Mentak, I'm considering being a very PDS focused Mentak and just really, really securing this slice because that Yin neighbor's pretty scary, and I don't want Hakan to have a desire to fight me off too much. I just want to kind of pillage from them, but not completely ruin their life. But getting 2 PDS out there, or even getting that space stock out there, could be handy. So I will take construction.
Yeah. So for the last draft, we're gonna try and do it as quickly as possible. We don't want this episode to be too long, but what we've done is we have given each of our spots that we're playing as, we've given them a specific character to play. One of the characters I'm playing is just gonna be a regular. I'm going to try and play as an experienced TTS player.
Right.
I'm also going to try and play as a new player to Twilight Imperium in general.
Right. They just wanted to join the tournament. It's fun.
Yeah. And then I'm going to play as somebody that specifically likes Arborak and wants to play Arborak.
Yeah. And we're not going to reveal which player is which in this situation, but we're going because when you sit down to a table at the tournament, you don't know what their prevailing motivation is, right? But we're going to just kind of let that be a guiding principle for us. My 3 characters are someone who's just new to the TTS meta. I play in my home group. We're all pretty solid. I think I'm pretty solid. I think I'm going to do all right in this tournament, but I don't really know how people break things down on TTS. I have a player who's going to be really economical, someone who almost doesn't even hardly believe in metas. They just believe there is a best faction, there's a worst faction, and there's everything in between, and everything is very kind of calculated and just nope, I must do this because it is the best thing, not that it has anything to do with me as a person or as a player. And my third one is that player, and this is my favorite kind of player who shows up to the tournaments, but it's that player who has something to prove. They believe that we are wrong in our tier list, and we said some faction was bad, and they're like, I'm going to prove that this faction is good because I'm good with this faction. I haven't actually specifically picked a faction for that to be, but that's going to be just kind of their prevailing ideas, something like Sardak or Mentak or Extra, where we were like, they're bad, and they're going to be like, no, I can win with them. Right. So those are my 3 characters. So we're going to also, again, try to go kind of fast. So a little bit less explanation, again, because we're kind of keeping some of this stuff to ourselves as to why we're picking a thing. But yeah. So first up, Hunter, is you. You've got a player there that is ready to go.
Right. So this is one of my players. I'm not going to say which one is which.
But player number 1 in general.
Player number 1 is going to ban SAR.
Okay. Yeah. So then next up is player number 2. Player number 2 isn't worried about the top faction stuff, but wants to ban something.
I'll say player number 1 banned SAR because they had a bad game with SAR. They didn't like SAR was mean to them.
Right. I'm gonna player number 2 is gonna ban the L1Z1X mind net. I think. Yeah. They just see them as a solid, not quite top 4, but gotta throw out the L1.
Right.
Hunter.
All right. So yellow player is gonna look at okay, so I'm likely. I probably at this point need to just keep working on the top 4. Nothing fancy. However,
SAR's
already been banned. So maybe I can ban something a little more counter picky.
Yeah.
Because SAR's already been taken care of, and also if I do ban something counter picky, I can kind of let the rest of the draft fix it for me.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking I'm either going to ban Necro or Barony. However, just for something a little different, I think Necro, Barony, and Hakan, I think all fit the bill here as far as like 7th best. And I think this time, I'm going to say this guy like wants to play Necro, so he's not going to ban Necro.
Yeah.
So he's either going to ban Hakan or Barony. Elwyn's already been banned. Hakan made it in last time, so I'm just going to let that be the tiebreaker, and I'm going to ban Hakan.
Okay. All right, and your player number 4 here. What do you got?
Player number 4. So player number 4 doesn't really know all the factions that well, but they've heard. They definitely don't want to play with Mentak.
Mm-hmm.
So they ban Mentak.
Yeah, Mentak's annoying.
Yeah,
all right.
Annoying Mentak. They don't like Mentak.
Player number 5 needs to ban the Nalu Collective. They see that Nalu Collective, they know they're not going to get Nalu, and they know that that's a problem, so it's time to get rid of Nalu. And player number 6 knows they'll be in the best one. They see that Soul is still in the game. They see Jolnar is still in the game. I think that they need to mitigate disasters and probably throw out Jolnar here. I think Jolnar needs to go. Let me think here for a second. Who could be most problematic for this player? They're going to be adjacent to Speakeasy, so Speakeasy is going to get the best faction. I think they actually want to get rid of Soul. Soul's too much of a thorn in their side, and Jolnar might actually be a thing they can deal with early game. So I want to reverse that. Yeah, they're going to get rid of Soul, because Soul could go take stuff from them, and that's just too much of an issue.
Awesome.
All right, so the bans were SAR, L1Z1X, Hakan, Mentak, Nalu, and the Federation of Soul. Player number 6, we're sticking with it. I don't see any reason for things to get shaken up with this single decision of the game, and that's going to be that player number 6 takes the best one. It's the best one after all.
Okay.
And then next up sees all the writing on the wall. Their 5th pick faction. But all influence and all resources are super, super annoying to them. I don't know, Hunter. Give me a hand here. I'm trying to think of how this player would think here, and I don't know if they go with the even slice or if they go with something that's got some raw numbers that can really push them in a specific direction.
I think because of the personality you've chosen for this player, it would be this
I think
one.
so too. Yeah, I think they're going to go with Turtles Paradise. They want numbers where they need them, not to force them into any strategic foothold. It's the same kind of thing as our first draft, where it's like, you know what, I don't know what faction I'm going to end up with. This draft went a little bit weird. Jolnar got let through, things like that. So this one's already kind of off to a weird foot. So I'm a little bit afraid of what all else can happen here. So yes, we take Turtles Paradise.
Okay. This next player knows that Speakeasy is the number 1 spot, in that they think that Speakeasy gets the speaker token. So they think that that's how it works. So they're going to take Speakeasy.
Can the other players chime in here?
The other players try and explain it to them, and then they're kind of like,
Oh my God.
okay, but I kind of have a plan. I have something I want to try in Speakeasy that I'm excited about. And so they try and talk this player out of it, but then the player doesn't do it, doesn't go for it.
Player says no. All right, you are player number 3.
So this player is very annoyed, very annoyed now, and is super confused as to what to do.
What has happened now? Yeah.
So the player could pick here. So this player could pick Lil Brudder, but then I think this player is gonna hope. this player is probably going to consider either, still probably going to consider the things they would have considered regardless, which is, Daddy Warbucks or, what's the other one? Gashfather.
Yep.
And actually,
their third pick,
man,
third
it's
faction
so
pick.
wild. It's so wild. This player. This is I'll just go and let you know this is my experienced player. So I'm trying to something crazy.
You'll never
just
guess
happened,
who
and now
went
I'm
before
trying to
them.
figure it. Yeah. So I feel like the smartest thing here. Do you think it would be Daddy? I'm just gonna ask your advice because we have to team up and be the experienced player. So this awful thing just happened. I think maybe Daddy Warbucks would be the right pick.
I think your third pick. And based on what people have already, the types of choices people have already made, you really think you could get Necro, and you're experienced, and you know you could do well with Necro in Daddy Warbucks.
So this guy's going to go after Daddy, and then the other. But here's the problem: if I pick Daddy Warbucks, and then like I could be last pick speaker order now or third pick.
Right? Yeah. Where do we?
That's
where
the
do
problem.
We think things are going to end up? But the person that goes next, well, they probably will take green, won't they? Because they don't want, if it's a choice between lots of influence or lots of, but you're picking between fourth pick or last pick, which neither are great.
Yeah.
Can Necro overcome a bad first round pick in Daddy Warbucks? I think probably.
I think so. This is the right pick. So yellow's going to go for Necro. In Daddy Warbucks. That's their plan.
Player number 2 knows
everything just got screwed up.
Everything got screwed up. No matter what they do, they are opposite of the speaker. They are third pick no matter what. So that doesn't come into it, which means the only other thing that comes into it is which slice is better. They have to take green. They are just forced into taking green no matter what.
Right.
They know that they'll put themselves in a really terrible position if they go anywhere else. So they take green, which means red is speaker and is in the unusual position of being in Little Brother. They were not expecting this.
Right.
And now they're going to pick a faction. They were planning on what kind of faction they wanted to do in Speakeasy, and now they are thrown through a loop. What faction do they want in Little Brother? They know Barony's pretty good, but they also see this wormhole.
This is my faction. Actually,
oh, you're right.
This is my pick, actually.
Yeah, you're up.
So all of those things you were just talking through, none of those things are actually being considered because there's a plan here, there's an agenda, and they're very excited that they had the speaker token because they don't even care what slice because they are going for an Arborec play. They're playing Arborec. That's the first pick.
All right, Arborec, they won it. Oh God, you're right. I forgot that was the thing. Oh no.
Yeah, I picked the spicy. I have spicy.
All right. Next up, they're in all influence, not really wormhole stuff. Well, Barony Aletnev has all resource, so they won't be hurt that bad by all influence. But Jolnar is available.
Is still in the game.
Jolnar is there.
Jolnar is still
and
available.
Next pick
and this is sorry, this one will be, so we have Arborec with the speaker token in Little Brother.
Yeah, this one's hard
and
to
now
explain.
we are picking for the player that's in
Gashfather.
Gashfather 3.
Yeah.
So try and keep this
so
one
here's some of the
head.
considerations that Gashfather 3 player is considering. The biggest issue is they know that Necro could end up somewhere. Jolnar is available to them, but to clue you in now on what they're doing, they're super pissed at Hunter and I because we said Ghost of Creus are bad, and they believe that Ghost of Creus are great, and they see that empty alpha near them and a lot of influence. Ghost of Creus could do all kinds of crazy shenanigans. There's a red skip nearby. This is almost an ideal situation for Ghosts, and they think they can pull it off. So Ghosts sits in Gashfather Part 3. So third pick.
So here's we're back to this guy that was planning. So we're back to Daddy Warbucks.
Yep.
The plan for this guy was Necro, obviously. Jolnar has not been picked though.
Right.
Which is a problem.
Which is weird.
So every time this guy has gotten and this is my experienced player. I'll go ahead and just reveal their personality. Sure. So I'm trying to make good decisions here.
What is the right thing to do? Does Jolnar need the resources? You'd also be more or less giving Jolnar to... you don't know what Speakeasy's plan is. Maybe you're not worried about them taking Jolnar, but you also don't know if they will take Jolnar, which means you're handing it to either your neighbor, that's a thing. If you take Necro, Jolnar might end up in yellow, your neighbor's position. That's entirely possible.
Right. Or vice versa. If I take Jolnar, I would have to be possibly next to Necro. So the problem is this. I feel like, I don't know, Matt, what would you do if you're in this position?
I think
this is both of our brains together.
I think it is tough. It's between Necro and Jolnar.
Right, Necro and Jolnar.
I think I don't trust the players surrounding Best One.
I don't. Yeah.
And I don't want Jolnar to get to Best One. However, I do think if if our player that is in the position of Speakeasy doesn't take Jolnar, it's my neighbor, which, okay, I'm Necro. That could be a really cool relationship. And I think that might be okay, but it wholly depends on what. Maybe, okay, here's the thing. They're both characters inside your brain. I think your character should ask Speakeasy what they're planning to do. They said they had a plan. What faction do they think they want? Because that impacts your decision here. Okay,
so Speakeasy, what do you want to do?
Go ahead and act it out for me. Go ahead and give me the voices.
Yeah, I'm acting it out. Speakeasy, what do you want to do? I like Jolnar. Jolnar's the best faction in the game, right? I know that. I might pick Jolnar, but I also like Muat. Okay. Doesn't tell me a lot, so maybe would pick Jolnar, which would be bad for me if I picked Necro, I feel like. It would make me feel like, oh, I should have picked Jolnar. With that...
I seriously think Necro does better, and just from if you have to ignore everything else, I think Necro does better in Daddy Warbucks than Jolnar does in Daddy Warbucks.
I agree. But Jolnar is just in general a better faction.
Right.
One of the top 4. I think even an experienced player, though, would be like, this is too potent a combination, Necro plus Daddy Warbucks. Yep. And also knowing that there is going to be a Jolnar in the game makes me feel like,
whether it's
and that there's
next
still
or not,
inexperienced players. There's inexperienced players at the table. We know that.
Right.
So if I'm playing Necro, the likelihood that I might be able to take advantage of Jolnar is very possible.
Yep.
Definitely. So let's do it. Necro and Daddy Warbucks, stick to the plan after some serious consideration.
Some fear. All right, and now you are player number 4 here.
Okay, so I'm the one that just talked to
Daddy Warbucks.
Yeah. So I said Muat or Jolnar, but
you were being coy. Were you being coy?
He didn't know why he was asking that question because he actually wanted to play Necro.
Is this mean? It's not mean. It is true.
No.
This stuff happens. We've seen this at Gen Con every year.
This stuff happens, and I'm not making fun of people for thinking this way. I'm trying to say that sometimes the draft will be like this.
Yeah, that's very true.
And it's fine.
Right.
It's not. There's
everyone else
nothing wrong.
is working around it.
Yeah. It's just interesting. I think it's more interesting to do a draft where this kind of stuff is
This happening. Is a preliminary round draft. This is not a semifinal round draft.
Yeah.
This is like the stuff you could actually come up against in the prelims.
Yeah. I think for fun, because this player has been my kind of agent of chaos, he's going to last minute be like, I actually think I kind of want extra.
What are you basing this? I want to know what's actually going through Hunter's head, invoking.
I'm basing it off of a player. So this is my new player. Is their personality? So they have not played that many factions.
Yep.
So they want to play a faction that they have played before.
Right. And they've played.
And at the beginning, I kind of said to myself that they've played Extra and Muat.
Okay, gotcha.
They know that they're not an idiot. They know that Jolnar is the best faction in the game, but also they don't want to play.
Yeah.
They don't want to play a faction they haven't played before in the tournament. So they're going to go for Extra.
Okay. Well, Blue is not a crazy person. They do see Necro adjacent to them, but they are they see the writing on the wall. Jolnar is good. It is the best faction, and maybe they can wheel and deal with Necro and actually make more money off of Necro's desire to copy tech from them than they can trying to avoid it and handing. Especially, they don't want to hand Jolnar off to the best one, so they're very keen on taking Jolnar in Turtles Paradise. And then our final player has a weird set to pick from. They've got Barony, Muat, Sardak, Winu, Yin, and Isarl. My top picks here are Isarl, Yin, and Barony.
Mm-hmm.
This player, they know they're in a pretty good. It's called the best one. It's basically the best slice. I feel like this person probably has seen Isarl do some crazy stuff, pretty routinely, and I think they want to take Isarl, because they've seen it succeed time over time over time. That Isarl wins in the late game.
Right.
So what we were left with is our speaker is Lil Brudder as Arborek.
It will happen at some point.
So, at least
like
one game is going to go like this, guaranteed.
Yeah.
Then after that is Turtles Paradise as the Jolnar. And then we've got Daddy Warbucks with the Necro, the Ghosts of Creus in Gashfather Part 3, the Isarl Tribes in the best one, and then Speakeasy picking last in as the Xjaw. Xjaw, Speakeasy picking last in speaker order. Hunter Donaldson. Here's our objectives real quick. We have got own tech, 2 tech and 2 colors, and spend 8 resources. You are our Arborek player. What is your first get?
Well, this player's whole plan was to get Warfare as Arborek, and they got that, and it doesn't really matter.
You know what? I'll say this much about this player. If ever you're going to play Arborek, it's in this position, right?
Yep, it's pretty cool.
It's not the slice you want, maybe, but it is the...
This player's personality wasn't supposed to be like they're bad at the game at all, or sorry, I shouldn't say good or bad.
New.
It's not that they're inexperienced.
Yeah.
This player just really likes Arborek and wants to play, and we get people like this in the tournament, and sometimes they actually succeed really well. They come in specifically
this is Jimbov,
with a game
right?
plan.
This is Jimbov. Jimbov rolled well, already likes Arborek, was in a situation where they were able to do first speaker order. They know it's like, if you're ever going to play Arborek, it's in this situation. And if anything, because of what our new player did, it gave them a better position.
Yeah,
Arborek in Speakeasy was going to be troublesome, but now they have this pathway to Mechatol. It could be a perfectly fine Arborek game. You could go Muwa, or you could go Warsun Arborek with that red skip. Yeah. I'm excited. All right.
And then Matt, it's you as Jolnar in Turtles Paradise.
Tech seems like a pretty interesting get. Obviously Jolnar doesn't love to just like take tech. They kind of want other people to take tech maybe. But it's round 1, and that's always a little bit different in round 1 because it still comes down to your command counters in round 1 rather than like the resources you would be spending. And Necro's maybe not taking tech. I could see a scenario where Necro takes tech because they want the command counters. If anything, I don't know. Let's have them talk a little bit. Hunter, as Necro, would you take tech as your experienced player?
As my experienced player.
Is tech the get if I take trade?
I think if I was Necro, it'd be like I'm considering tech, trade, and politics right now.
I think Jolnar, and like I said this earlier too, Jolnar's looking to get the right footing here with Necro, so they want to be prepared for wheeling and dealing. And if anything, I think they want to take trade. They want the money.
Interesting.
They want the money. Money is very important to them.
So the next player is Necro and Daddy Warbucks, who is my experienced player. They wanted those 3. They weren't lying about that, but I think tech was their lowest priority. Yeah. So now I'm very tempted to take politics, basically. Mm-hmm. It would be cool to get some command counters though. That's not wrong. That's not wrong at all. But we're reasonably set up to trade with Jolnar regardless.
Yeah.
Because we're neighbors and because their other neighbor is Arborek, that is kind of, I can see Arborek's path, what they're going to do.
Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily translate to trading with Jolnar. And also Jolnar's going to want to trade with me. So I kind of feel like I'm going to take politics, actually.
Okay. Next up is the Ghosts. Ghosts in Gashfather Part 3. They've got tech available to them. Do they even need tech round 1? They've got the gravity drive. I mean, they know they need to be working on tech in general. And that's kind of the key to a good Ghosts game. They're going to have plenty of command counters later. They don't need leadership. But is construction the thing? Are they looking to get PDS down right away? No, I don't think they're crazy. I think tech is a pretty good get.
Yeah.
They were surprised to even see it get to them. Next up is our Isarl in the best one. They're looking at leadership diplomacy, construction, and imperial. And I think that they know that leadership should be the get. I mean, there's nothing
it's
weird
just got to
here.
be leadership at this
Hunter,
point.
go ahead and tell me what Extra does.
So Extra,
you engineered all of this. This is like the storyline of the century.
So that's the thing, and this is I think important to note. I really don't want it to sound like we're throwing shade at people that
this happens. We've watched this happen numerous times.
So you need to be ready for the fact that somebody might just go against the grain completely. And it might be because they're a new player, but also might be because they just disagree with the whole idea.
Right.
But definitely going to take diplomacy as extra. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
That's such a good.
They're gonna get Tarman off of the thing there.
Yeah, I'm gonna get Tarman off of the thing, and I can always get construction later. One thing I also wanted to mention about my necro picking politics play that I didn't even think about is that I could then also trade the speaker token to Jolnar
for some tech.
So we could really kind of get in bed together.
Yeah, I think Jolnar in this game, Jolnar and Necro are set up incredibly well. I don't think there's any scenario where one of the two of them doesn't win. in this layout,
they're really awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well that's all the drafts we're gonna do. This went on for a while. We've actually got a lot of episode left, if you'd believe it. So we're gonna do some errata. You feeling all right there, buddy?
Yeah, no, I'm fine. Just had some, late night tournament moderating. Just some of that old school. Oh man, it's amazing. It's amazing how I love the reaction to our tournament. I love how much people love it and care about it. And then you're in the games, and then you're in the games, and you're like, wow, these people, we are playing for keeps. These people really, really want this. And I think it's just because I can't play in the tournament, obviously. I mean,
right.
How could I? I'm too good. But yeah, it would just be every year. It would just be you know what?
It'd just be pointless.
Yeah, it would be pointless. And it would also look really arrogant because it would look like we run this tournament just to give me an award every year.
Right.
That's what it would look like.
Yeah.
Because that's how good I am at.
If you can't tell, we have jumped forward in time. We recorded the whole episode yesterday, but then had to break. So now we're recording, and actually we have seen 3 games to completion, and there's actually a game actively happening right now while we're recording. But we want to kind of give some tournament updates because that's the whole. We're in tournament season, man. It's time. Let's do the first one, which is the weirdest update, which is 4 games so far. 3 of the games have had L1Z1X, Barony of Letnev, Xcha, Isarl, and Yin Brotherhood in them. Yeah. 3 out of 4 games have had that. Game 1 also had Ghosts. Game 2 and Game 3 both had... Game 3 and 4 both had Sardak.
Nope.
2 and 4.
Also wrong. No.
2 and 4 both had Sardak.
Yep. 2 and 4.
Then... Game 3 is the only weird one, and boy, howdy, was it a weird one. Real quick, we'll get to that, but we're just kind of announcing winners right now. The first game that was won of the entire tournament was won by the Defterus.
Yeah,
so congratulations to the
Defterus
as the Yin Brotherhood in the best one. Our second game was won by B-, and B- was Sardak Nor in...
Turtles
Paradise. And then, Hunter, tell me, you were there last night at the wee hours of the morning.
Yeah,
tell me about Game 3 a little bit.
So one thing I want to say about Game 3, well, there's a lot of things I want to say about Game 3. Game 3 was the weirdest one thus far. Those first 2 are great games. There's nothing wrong with them. Real good.
Nothing wrong with them as opposed to Game 3.
Game 3 gets pretty wild, and you can watch it on YouTube. One of the players actually did their own recording of it, which is awesome. And
it will be pinned on the Discord.
Yeah, let's just do it that way.
Patreon tournament chat.
Yeah.
But if you look up Control-Z on YouTube, they host Twilight Imperium games, and they posted their tournament game. So if you want to watch the weirdest 11-hour game of your life, yeah, by all means. Yeah,
so it had so the winner of that one was Kudos playing as Jolnar. And there's a couple characters
in Gashfather
Part 3. And then there's 2 other characters who I want to talk about. One is Jay Nor, who you might recognize from the finals last year.
Right, a big upset.
Yeah,
we don't see
big
Jay Nor
upset.
win this
well,
one.
Yeah, I mean that's gonna happen.
For sure. But notable that one of our finalists is already out.
And then we also had kind of an Agent of Chaos player, D20 Chemist.
Yeah.
So D20 Chemist comes into and we've gotten people like this last year. I knew we were going to get people this year.
I believe they did this last year. I was talking to Root.
Oh, did they
really?
About
the game, and Root was like, somebody rolled dice for their faction picks last year. So I don't know. D20, hit us up if that was you, or if it wasn't. If it was somebody else, let us know. We want to know who these Agents of Chaos are. Yeah.
So he rolled dice to determine all of his choices in the draft, which is funny because it's going to sound like when we did that last goofy.
Right.
Mock draft. It's going to sound like we were making fun of somebody like him, but it's so hilarious that we did that because then later that day somebody did sort of do almost exactly what our mock draft was.
Gosh, there was an Arborek in that game too. I mean, Monty wanted to play Arborek and chose Arborek. I mean, it was almost the exact same draft as what we did as our third draft that you just listened to 10 minutes ago.
We really predicted it because it's just like sometimes so you get some people that are just kind of Agents of Chaos and they just want to shake up the draft. And then you've got some people that come in and they've already decided what faction they want to play, and they don't care about the draft. They're like, no, I want to play so-and-so faction.
With X.
Yeah, and I'm going to play that faction. So yeah, that the draft was pretty wild. I don't even remember how, basically...
I don't know what slices they're in, but the factions were L1, Isarl, Ghosts, Necro, Jolnar, and Arborek. So still a pretty decent makeup of factions.
Sure, but I'll tell you the wildest part of the draft itself was D20 Chemist, as far as drafting order, was at the point where he would have picked Slice first, which when you pick Slice first, there's really, there's only one, really. There's the best one. And he rolled his dice, and the dice told him to pick Speakeasy, which is the most chaotic choice he could have made at that point.
Right.
So everything got wild after that.
Yeah, and it ended up being... that's why, based on just where everybody else wanted to play, and if anything, too, you can see in the video, some of the players sort of forget how badly everything's going to be messed up because of D20's decision.
Right.
And so, Jolnar ends up in Gashfather because Jolnar is Speaker. So Jolnar, with the Speaker token, picking strategy cards first in Gashfather, and they finished the draft, and I think at least 2 of them went, oh gosh, I forgot that's where the Speaker token was going to be.
Yeah.
The decisions about where to sit stopped factoring in the Speaker token, and it definitely got a little scary there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's another thing we sort of predicted, and it's kind of spooky, our mock draft versus how this game went, because that was one of the things I threw out as a potential mistake someone would make is them forgetting that the speaker token is attached. Yeah, it's attached to a player, not to the Speakeasy slice. Right. You know what I mean? It's not like whoever sits at Speakeasy is the speaker.
Right. Our naming convention is a little bit tricky there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a little bit misleading. Because that is just the first player in drafting order, basically, is the speaker. And if they end up sitting somewhere else, then that means the whole gambit of we kind of all know what the speaker order is going to be for round 1.
Right.
That gets thrown out the window. And that got completely thrown out the window for this game.
Do we want to dig, not very much, but do we want to dig a little bit into how that game ended? Because it's one of those kind of semi-controversial endings that people like to hear about.
Yeah, so it was somewhat controversial. However, I don't know. I think it would be misleading to just give you the ending.
Yeah, sure.
Without all of the context. And how about this? I will just say that Jay Nor was playing as Necro, and his neighbor was Kudos playing as Jolnar, and they did. And I don't know if I've ever actually seen this before. I definitely know I've heard
theory crafted.
Yes,
but
I don't know that I've ever actually seen it happen. But Necro got E-Res, Jolnar had E-Res, and they just had this very, very strong, just let's just activate each other over and over and just make money out of nothing. I mean, it's like an infinite money cheat code.
Yeah, I wasn't watching the game the whole time, but I tuned in probably halfway through, maybe round 4 or something, and there was so much plastic on the board. It freaked me out. And not just I mean, there was a point where it looked like Jolnar and Necro both could do more than half of any stage 2s. They had such a huge stockpile of trade goods and so much plastic and all the tech they needed, and it was just like, how are either of these two players ever going to be stopped? That was my interpretation of just like tuning in randomly in the middle.
Yeah. I believe the stage 2s were kind of mean, though. Like, eventually the unit upgrade one came out, but like the first one was very difficult regardless of how many components you had.
Yeah.
Which is crazy, but yeah, I mean, they had like they had like all their command counters. Like every time I would look at them, they had every single one of their command counters were out, and then just like these huge stacks of trade goods.
Yeah.
So that just made the game all, and like I don't blame it all at all for doing this. Like they basically like found an exploit and were like, yeah, we can totally. And honestly, a lot of it was kind of if you go back and listen to our interview with Jay Nor in the like prelude to the finals thing, he talks a lot about his philosophy being like a rising tide floats all boats. Yeah, something like that. Actually, I feel like that's messing it up, but whatever. But this game is sort of like that philosophy, just like writ large to an extent where like you kind of see like what would happen if this went to its like basically as far as it can go, to where it's literally like two players are helping each other out to such an extent that they have like all the components they could have basically out.
I mean, it literally, I'm just reading back at Janor's a little bit of recap, and it was Necro and Julnar are positioned for every single tech and spending objective in round 2.
Yeah.
All of them. They had command, I mean, what you said at one point, Julnar had literally every command counter on their sheet.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is they both mostly
had all the stuff you can have.
they had all their command counters out, so that meant like, you know, anytime they would take from reinforcements, they had to just take off their sheet. That's how much they had their components just like under control. Which is crazy. And then the end of the game, actually, I think I would like to talk about the end a little bit because I want to call out that Crinden as the L1Z1X.
Yeah, Austrian Oak on the Discord.
Did have kind of a route to a victory. It was a pretty solid route, and it didn't seem like they could really stop him. However, Janor, God, I'm sure that happens all the time. Janor and Kudos would have just barely not finished, and so they had a gambit that would have made me super upset had I been in the game, but as a viewer was hilarious, especially with all of the weird stuff.
It's one of those things that you can call king making, but because the two people involved both could become the king, it's hard to know where to put that.
Yeah,
right?
that smells like a different situation to me than king making.
Yeah, exactly.
But so what they did was they sort of like they both needed to score an action phase secret objective, and I don't know how they both knew what secret objectives they had. Like I don't know if they discussed this. Like I didn't catch that part, but they basically like they were like, okay, well I will make it possible for you to score yours if at the same time you make it possible for me to score mine, and we just kind of let the RNG decide who wins this game.
Right.
And in the end, the RNG decided that it was Kudos. It just as easily could have been Janor, because it basically came down to Janor had turned their fleets to dust, which he did actually score, but Kudos only needed to destroy their greatest ship, which Janor like risked so that Kudos would come and go for it. Yeah. Right. So pretty weird. So yeah, I just want to call out that was a game where Janor, Kudos, and Crinden had it all in their grasp. Actually, I even think D20 Chemist was next.
Had a shot.
Yeah. Like it wasn't like that. That was a really, really, really close one. And I'm sorry that I don't have as much information about the other two games. I just did not get to watch as much of them as I wanted to.
Also, I mean, they just didn't end as wildly. I know Defterus's Yin win was a little bit of a win from ahead scenario. Not completely ahead. I'm not saying the other players didn't have a shot or whatever, but it was definitely like he had a bit of a point lead on everybody else, whereas I think game 2 was pretty tight the whole way.
Yeah.
So we're already seeing, I think, some better play across the board this tournament. Last year, the prelims were wild, all over the place. Some games it was just a complete wash. Someone ran away with it, and I wouldn't call any of these games that. And the fourth one that we're kind of seeing play out right now is the same scenario where it's like, I mean, literally at this moment, I see 3 players at 8, 2 players at 7.
Yeah,
like it's close. So already seeing that the competition for this tournament is ramping up. year by year, which is super freaking exciting.
Yeah. And I do kind of want to sing a little song for Janor as being our first like finalist to be bounced out of the tournament. He's a great player, and it was actually really great just watching him play again, because it had been a long time actually. I haven't played with him or seen him play. Actually, I don't know if I've ever actually played with him. But his philosophy on TI, his attitude is very, like, I would say, original and like kind of creative, but also just like kind of a joy to play with and watch. He just always has like good tude on that guy.
Good, he's got a good tude. You know who else has good tudes? Our 3 moderators. Who we have to give just like so much thanks. I can't even. There's not enough words for Jefferson, Vision S, and I Am Katie. You 3 are amazing. We're gonna say this probably every single week, but holy cow, do we love you! By the end of this weekend, we will have already finished 5 games. We'll see how it ekes out next week, but by the end of next weekend, there's a real chance that we could have 13 or 14 games of this tournament already done, which compared to last year, that's the most wild thing I can imagine. I can't believe we're getting games knocked out this fast, and it's only because these amazing people have donated their time to help moderate. So thank you to the ends of the earth. Yep.
Celia's game in particular went very, very late.
Yeah.
And I did not relieve her from her moderating duty until it was probably about midnight here.
Kate's game was just as long, and she just started at a very, very early morning.
Oh, right. Yes.
I had to wake up at 6 a.m. to check in on hers. Now, most of the players were like European. I think the earliest player was starting at like 7 a.m., but that's still early, and they went until late. They went until the late afternoon.
One other thing I want to call out is B- winning as Sardak. I am kind of becoming a little Sardak fanboy, and I'm glad there's a Sardak in the current game that's going on. So that's twice that Sardak has beta into the tournament. So
but
they're pretty good.
They're pretty good. They're pretty all right. It is time for us to transition into some errata, and we've been kind of stockpiling errata, Hunter. So this might be a bit of a chunker. And the first one up is a huge chunk because we owe some errata on the Patience is a Virtue Space Kitty episode, where we learned about Patience's wild experience with TI and his crazy life, hiding the game from people, his hidden addiction, as we called it, or as he calls it. And that one got some reactions, huh, Hunter?
Yeah, it did. It was a little more, I think, controversial than I thought it would be. I think maybe you foresaw that a little more. I feel like
I didn't see it as crazy as it got. Some people just thought it was wild, like we did. Some people were like actually uncomfortable with it, which is a whole other thing. Whatever. But it was a weird episode. But we have a response that we want to read out because as you heard last week, we're kind of changing up our Patreon tiers, and so we want to, we had essentially a Space Kitty want to chime in and just be a voice on this topic a little bit. So on the topic of hidden addiction, here's something from Scott Radom. My fellow space cats and dearest peace turtles, if you are of a certain age, you will remember a dark time for gamers, a time when gamers who yearned for a more immersive experience than Monopoly or Battleship would provide found themselves under attack by society as a whole. Anyone caught rolling funny-shaped dice that had more or less dots than 6 on them were in league with the devil, or even worse, communists. We were pushed into the shadows, and more often than not, gaming communities that did exist had rules for entrance that made Fight Club look like a welcome wagon. I'm going to pause right here and say I have no idea of the extent that Scott Radom is saying, gamers were pushed into the fringes of society, but there's obviously aspects of that are true, but I think your mileage may vary. So moving on, this was many decades ago, and times they have changed. Nobody is getting stuffed in a locker for reading Lord of the Rings anymore. Someone hearing these words right now has a tattoo of a geek reference in a visible place on their body. There was a time when only the true deep dive geek knew who Tony Stark was. The fully immersed nerd got to watch when all of their mainstream friends and acquaintances experienced the pain of the Red Wedding and unite in the true hopelessness fandom often brings. My takeaway from episode 113 is to just let people know to trust in the power and light that this hobby has. Don't be afraid when talking to people and the inevitable "what do you do for fun?" question comes up to say that you absolutely love board games. And when the even more inevitable follow-up question of "you mean like Risk?" comes up, I strongly recommend a comment like "kind of, only turned way up past 10." I've been lucky in my 43 years to run in social and business circles with all walks of life. I've had national politicians tell me they wished they still had time for a regular gaming night. There is a poster hanging up right now at the Prince Albert Correctional Center looking for another player for their Pathfinder campaign. The only possible downside you have from sharing that you too are a geek or nerd for games is someone who doesn't understand and just lumps you into whatever negative pool of people they reserve for "don't talk to that dude again." So what? If someone is willing to write you off for something you are passionate about, then is it that important to be involved with them? You are not pushing any agenda by sharing what you love. Let them come to you. You're not the person trying to explain to me at a party the difference between a slant 6 and a straight 6 after being told for the fourth time that you don't care about engines. Being a gamer is not a secret worth keeping. This is a great hobby. Our community as a whole is very warm and accepting, and we have worked so long and hard to show the world what we do, what we're about, and it's an amazing piece to add to your life. It's never been a better time to be a space cat or a peace turtle. Thank you, Scott Radum. So big message, big encouragement from Scott is the main takeaway I want to get from that. There's stuff in there that I don't think everybody shares those views. Hunter, you specifically talked about your willingness to divulge your geekier side with like fellow comedians and bookers and things like that, and I think it's a total perspective thing.
Okay, well, so this is one of those cases where it feels like there was maybe a misunderstanding as far as what was being communicated.
Yeah, I think so.
Because I think it was kind of, I don't know, like it's a nuanced thing, and I feel like this is one of those cases where I'm reading this response to our episode, and it feels like a response to something I don't think I said, or that I don't feel like we were trying to communicate. I don't think we were trying to tell people that being a gamer is something that you should keep secret.
Right.
Absolutely not. I mean, we're literally a show about a game. Like, you know what I mean? Like, obviously we're not keeping it secret. We're talking about this every week. Right. We are like very, very, this is a big part of our lives, this game. But at the same time, you can't really like judge people for what they do to like get by in this world, basically. Yeah. And some people have like different responsibilities and different contexts that they operate in. The example that I gave that is true, and I wasn't really giving it like, oh, this is. In fact, I was kind of saying like it's lame that this is how it is.
Yeah.
But there are times in my life as a comedian, and whenever you're trying to be an artist in general, one of the worst things about trying to pursue something like that is most of these fields have a kind of gatekeeper type of structure to them, where there's really just a handful of people out there. It's way less people than you would think in the entertainment industry that can kind of decide your fate, basically. Right. And when you meet these people, they are looking at you as a person and as a product. And when I meet someone like that, those times that I do, what I need to demonstrate to them and what they are looking for me to demonstrate to them is that I am a product that they can sell. What I do here on this show
right, is not part of that product.
Does not necessarily translate to them. That they don't understand. And it doesn't sound like a product. So it is a weird situation, because if I say that I have a podcast, they hear podcast and like, oh, a podcast, that's a product that I can sell. But this is not the most sellable show as a part of me being a comedian. However, that is not the same as me saying that I want to keep any of this secret. It's just not. It's not part of that pitch for me. And that being brought up in that context can be a strange fit, basically. Yeah. I don't know. Does it feel like when I say this, like, Matt, do you feel like I am like hiding this, or is
No,
this something
no.
that because it's
I
really
think
not
it
like a
is-
shame thing at all. It is
Right.
It is just like I know what they are looking for professionally, and this show can kind of cause like some confusion with that, basically.
Right. I mean, obviously, we're not hiding the fact that Patience's case is like the extreme, right? The stuff with his wife is like up to him, and it's his thing, and it's his personal prerogative. I think Mantis has a really good summation here too. He was a part of this discussion that was happening on the Discord. Mantis said, "I think there's a huge overlap of people who hide activities from their family and people whose activities take them away from or substitute their time with their family. I think it's going to be a common reaction to equate the two, even if you can't tell from a specific instance whether both are occurring or not. Hiding something from a spouse because you know it's wrong is one thing. Hiding it because you feel they might laugh at you is different, and there's a whole spectrum of reasons, some harmless and some harmful. Overall, the only thing that stands out to me about Patience's story is the motel rooms. The rest feels mostly harmless to me."
Yeah.
And I think that's the point there is it's a personal thing, and we're not talking about it being like a deep-seated shame that I can't express my love of board games to people. It has so many layers to it. And I think Scott's reaction was just someone who's very, very proud of their board gaming habits and their nerdiness in general. And I think it is a bit of I'm going to say overreaction, but I don't mean that to say Scott's freaking out. But it's an overreaction to what the problem is, because it's not that big of a problem. It's just a thing that Patience doesn't talk to his family about and doesn't want to interfere with how he talks with his family. And that's all we get to know. We don't know the inner workings of that, and that's about as far as we get to make assumptions.
Yeah. I mean, it's also just comes down to like, I don't know, the guy came on the show and shared like some pretty personal stuff about his life, and like I just don't like, I don't feel like we really have much of a right to like to judge him or whatever. And I'm not even saying that anybody is judging him.
Right.
It just feels like the reaction to the episode from some people was almost like, it felt like by Patience coming forward and sharing his story, I don't think he wasn't like trying to threaten anybody or make people, or even normalize any of this. If anything, he was saying like, this is wild, that this is what I did, and even not great. He calls it an addiction, which is nobody's ever like, oh, I have this awesome addiction I got to tell you about.
Right.
Like,
yeah. Yeah. I think we saw plenty of responses too that we aren't specifically reading out here that were, wow, Patience was very brave to talk about that, because it's clearly something deeply personal for them, and I think there was a lot of positivity that came out from that episode too. So regardless of your reaction to it, it's still a wild story, and it was still a fun episode, and I always love getting to sit down with our space kitties and everything, even though that might be a thing that happens a lot less going forward with the new Patreon structure. But let's jump into the next bit of errata, which is moving on from 113 and moving into episode 114, which is about the episode that we covered the Holiday Spectacular in, and actually has nothing to do with Twilight Imperium, but RoboFish on the Board Game Geek asks, Matt, do you feel like you've got the birds, the Eerie, to work in Root yet? And the answer to that question is kind of. I think Hunter and I are both in a weird place with Root now. Mostly positive. We got that Underworld expansion, and that opened up the game a lot, and so I'm super, super excited. If anything, I'm more excited now for the Eerie, because before the Underworld, you had the Cats and you had the Eerie, and those are like the control factions, and you kind of need both for a game to really work. And now that you have the Duchy in there, the Duchy, how do you say that? Duchy?
The Duchy.
I say Duchy. Now that the Duchy's there, you can swap one of the others out anytime you want, which means you can shake up the dynamics a lot more. So if anything, I think that the birds are only going to start opening up a little bit, whereas before they felt really rigid and really hard to master. I don't even think you can master the birds. Like you can do the best you can do with the birds, and if anybody else at the table decides to pay attention to you, they can probably mess up your whole plan because your plan is very public. So I still feel I still don't hate playing the birds, but it is almost always kind of a frustrating mind bender to go through.
Yeah.
Hunter, have you played the birds at all yet? I don't remember.
I played them once. I liked it. It was pretty easy. Matt, you have to just try and be more aggressive and build more roosts. It's actually pretty easy. You have to be
It's just super easy. Just build a bunch of roosts.
Yeah, you just build roosts. That's all you do. It's not hard.
Well, I'll try that next time, Hunter. Thank you.
Yeah. Try. Also, you could try like fighting more.
Probably.
Yeah.
Or building more warriors.
Yeah.
Recruiting more.
Yeah.
That might help.
Yeah. Let's see. There's 4 different things you can do. Oh yeah. Move
a little.
You
bit
could
more.
move
Okay.
a little bit more.
Sure. Okay. That sounds fair.
Anyway, so just try those strats, and then your bird game will improve. I promise. It's easy. It's easy.
Thanks, Hunter. Let's move on.
Hashtag the Erie is easy. Erie, more like easy.
More like easy. Episode 115. Moving on. Last week was our tier list, and we nailed it. So what? No errata? Is that right, Hunter? We're done?
No, actually, some people did still respond, even though we did nail it. But I mean, I will say this is one of those times we can go ahead and say everything we're about to read from all these people is wrong. But we're gonna read it anyways because we're nice. This first one's from Volpixel. I don't play a ton, so I need to reread the Arborek and Sar faction sheets. Aren't their abilities really similar? Arborek can do it everywhere, but it takes time to get capacity up, whereas Sar can only do it from their space docks, but start with the full dock capacity. Maybe plants are just too slow, or maybe I undervalue invulnerable home system. I don't disagree with the data, but it just seems crazy that very similar abilities are on the very top and the very bottom. Yeah, so I guess basically what they're saying is that we've got 2 factions with abilities that are essentially like, hey, they can produce on the move. And one of them, very, very good. And the other, not
dead last.
That other way, you know? I get that it could be confusing because they both should be equally good.
Right.
Basically.
Right. There was kind of a conversation that broke out from this because Volpixel was mostly just looking for some advice. And I think AJPL and Brian put it really good. AJPL said mobility is of massive importance in Twilight Imperium. There's a reason the blue tech tree is far and away the best one. SAR are excellent at mobility, and Arborek suck at it. And Brian went on to say, it's a matter of the maneuverability of set abilities. For SAR, the dock flies out on its own and, in fact, moves other units around. It has its own capacity. Mm-hmm. For Arborek, they would have to have a carrier, 1 fleet supply, and 3 resources just to be 1 production short of the space dock. SAR basically gets a fleet supply free carriers that produce on the move, and Arborek doesn't. Mm-hmm. So it's the idea that Arborek can produce on the move, but the move part is not actually like a very big aspect of their play, whereas SAR produces on the move, and they are all about movement.
Right. Yeah, I think it really doesn't. They both have production abilities, but one of them just has all this other stuff that like makes it kind of all sing together, right. And then the other just it has Machen.
Yeah, and honestly, even with that, the big thing is, SAR, if it only had that, if it had the production on the move, it would still only be like an all right faction. It'd probably be like a mid-tier faction. You'd get lots of units, but it is the fact that they can completely abandon their home system that that just wildly unlocks them. Not only because it's just there's absolutely no way you can stop them from scoring when they want to, but they also are not defined by a pie slice. They get to just go take whatever planets they want without any abandon. They just do anything they want. And that's a huge advantage to have at your disposal. Whereas Arborek still has to hold on to their bad home system.
Yep. I agree. Do we want to move on to the next one?
Yeah. The next one is a similar talking point, which Badman Veach says, what's wrong with Mentak? It seems like they ought to be higher up. So this is just a similar situation of like Arborek seems like it should be better. Mentak seems like it should be better. What's going on? There's actually a lot of discussion about Mentak and ghosts on our tier list, but Santiago X Deirdre responded to Badman Veach and said, Dreadnought 2, I'm going to summarize a bunch, actually. Yeah. If you want to go on the Reddit, there's a huge post where Santiago says a lot more, but here's the spark notes. Dreadnought 2 is better at scoring. Bombardment is a huge deal for grabbing planets, so the Mentak have to bring a few cruisers to go take a world for a planet objective. Cruisers are fragile to PDS. Shooting a Dreadnought 2 with PDS, even with plasma scoring, is 75% likely to not result in a kill. Cruiser 2s against PDS, they explode. If you're not bringing carriers, they explode even without Graviton. You are not tanking PDS shots. Can you bribe your neighbors to let you take planets? No, you're Mentak. You are the one faction they will go out of their way to destroy when you're adjacent. You're the one faction that might be innocently trying to score 2 ships next to Mechatol Rex when someone else will smash you, not because they're afraid of you scoring, but because they just don't like you being there next to them. Also, 2 techs in 2 colors bites because they really want to run up the yellow tree, and green 2 and red 2 are not really great for them. This is something we mentioned in the episode of, it's the same thing with Asarl and Mentak, where it's like your best tech path is a sprint down 1 color, which locks you out of a bunch of objectives.
Right.
So to recap, blue is the best color for scoring points. Carriers and Dreads are both fantastic point scorers. Gravity Drive is fantastic, period. And Mentak don't want to go there. They make enemies just by moving around, so they're the faction most likely to be attacked. They get strong in the late game, but most games end in round 5 or 6 at the latest. It is not a recipe for a win.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of this. I feel like Mentak is like that, a kind of example of like a faction that should have like should just be fightier, because they have like kind of a mean slant to them, like in their design.
Right. And ambush is a great ability, but it's because it relies on cruisers, it's just not meaty enough. They're not defensive enough,
right.
I guess.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see like if somebody was like, I don't care about ambush, I just care about pillage, and I'm gonna go like Dread 2 or something. That would be interesting.
Right.
It would be kind of weird, I guess, but yeah, like I just feel like Mentak kind of leads people down the wrong path, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's mirror computing, which kind of like is just such a wrench in all the data, because then there's those games where Mentak has a really great time at the end, you know?
Yeah, that was the issue with that. It was a C tier. Why aren't they better? It is like, if anything, with Mentak and Ghosts both, we're kind of saying what everybody else is saying, which is like, on our own list, we believe Ghosts and Mentak should be better. Mm-hmm. But they aren't. In the world, in tournaments that we've seen, we don't see them do better, so we can't rightfully put them in the same tier as the factions that we do see do well.
Right.
They just aren't better, and we don't know why. We don't have a perfect answer, and that's why they ended up in that C tier.
There's something wrong, and we don't really even understand exactly what that... I mean, we have ideas, obviously, about what's wrong, but yeah.
But no clear answer.
Yeah.
So there we go. Hunter, we did it. We caught up on 3 weeks worth of errata that we've been skipping out on because every episode we did, we were just like wanting to dive right into it because we were in the same room as each other, and now we're not anymore.
Right. Yeah, it's a bummer. It's always so much. I just need to move to Arkansas. That happening scene.
That happening comedy scene of
I just need to be down in Arkansas for where all this stuff's going down. Hey, if you like this show, well, first of all, I want to say thanks to everybody that supports our Patreon. You guys are the best, and we're smack dab in the middle of our tournament. Please answer your emails, please. We're not at the point anymore where it's like, hey, look out for them. It's like, no, hey, we sent you something, okay?
Yeah,
I know we sent you something.
Yeah. We sent emails to 216 people, and I got responses from about 100, which is great. Again, like I said earlier, we're going to get through like 13 games. That's amazing, but there's going to be a very quick falling off point. So please, if you're listening to this and you are in the tournament, check your emails regularly. My goal is to get a few out and to get a couple weeks ahead. I know we kind of started the tournament with just like hey, are you ready on like this Saturday? That's not going to continue. We will get more ahead of it. We just kind of had to dive in the deep end here. So like this week, you should already have emails in your inbox for scheduling emails that come out, through the next couple weeks.
Yes.
So we're looking for people to send us your availability. And then once we have your availability, we send you an email that is essentially inviting you to the game we want you to play in, right? It's an email with you and 5 other players and says, hey, you said you were available for this time slot. Here it is. Can you confirm that you are still available for it? Let's get this ball rolling.
Yeah.
And that's that. So you're basically keeping an eye out for 2 separate emails routinely throughout this process.
Yeah. So I just want to talk a little bit specifically to Galactic Counselors. This was a Galactic Council episode that was really fun to do. But I am looking to get us ahead on Galactic Council polls. So I'm going to go ahead and put out, when you hear this, if you're a Galactic Counselor, you can go ahead and vote on next month's episode, which is going to be the first week of February. And I got 3 choices for you. And I'm kind of like I kind of want the choices to move around a lot. So just like don't expect to see like the same choices on the polls over and over. But this time we didn't get to do the player profile on 9 of Spades, and I just really feel like doing a player profile episode. And we just got done doing the Holiday Spectacular, and also I just like having my friends on the show. So here you go, your choices for next month's episode. They're all player profiles. You can pick Alex, who was in the Holiday Spectacular.
He unlocked the final round of the game.
He was the unlocker, and which is pretty good, almost good to be in the
almost noteworthy.
Now, it wasn't like a win or anything, but it was. He did unlock the final round. And if you don't know what we're talking about, you should watch it on YouTube. Please watch the Holiday Spectacular on YouTube because I edited it and it took me all week. A lot of people have actually been calling out that they want to talk to Alex about his necro strategies in the Holiday Spectacular because he was kind of playing a wild game. Also, I would like the opportunity to have him on the show and apologize for how salty I was at him. I really don't like being called out for saltiness because that's kind of Matt's whole thing. Right. And someone did call out like, hey, Hunter was kind of salty in that, which I would actually contend that I wasn't, but... really at all, but then the record is there.
There's a video. Shoot.
At least I didn't like break anything or smack my head on a desk or anything. So still,
well, never mind. The second option though is the one that I want to get on the. I mean, the second one's funny because it's Sean, and Sean was here last week just talking to us about the game in general.
Right.
But it would be more fun to dig into Sean's brain.
Yeah,
as a player.
And how Sean plays. Board games and strategy games in general. I think it would be really fun. I don't know how illuminating it will be for you all because I think it would be kind of like that's a way to do that, huh?
Right.
Which actually, you know what? I will say this though. Sean plays games, I think, to have fun, which is nuts. What? And I know I just lost a lot of people.
Well, hang on. You say that, but also Sean, every time it's his turn, it's like a 10-minute intermission.
Yeah, because he's having so much fun.
He's having so much fun on other players' turns that he forgets that he's playing the board game, and then on his turn, it's like, oh yes, now I'll be strategic.
Yeah. And then your last choice, I think this would be an interesting time to have this guy on the show, actually, mostly because of his lack of interest in Twilight Imperium, but also I feel like the arc of his character should be updated a little bit. Is absolutely. Connor famous for him confusing the legal text. And it's time for him to be on the show. And I think it's also time for us to cast off if you watch what happens to him in the Holiday Spectacular, I feel like it's very mean from the very beginning, and I think we should all let him off the hook collectively, and I think it would be nice to have him on the show to have him speak on that a little bit.
Yeah. So there you go. Your three options are essentially Alex, the strategy discussion, Sean, the how do you play games for fun discussion, and Connor, the redemption story.
Yeah.
Those are kind of the three focuses of what we could get into.
And actually, I'm pretty sure, has Connor never been on the show? I don't think Connor's ever been on the show.
I mean, there was that one time early on that you kind of just interviewed all of our friends and had them send you a blurb, and I have no idea if Connor was in that or not. Probably not.
I don't know that he was.
I think he's only been a part of Holiday Spectaculars.
Yeah. Sean and Alex have both been on a couple times, I think. Me and Alex did everyone's favorite episode of all time, which is the Twilight Imperium movie. Which, by the way, I think I could do a better version of that
now.
Yeah, so maybe me and Alex will collaborate on a Twilight Imperium 2. Anyways, more Patreon stuff. Hunter Donaldson fan club people, which is Hunter Donaldson is a guy on the show. Wait, what is this? Oh yeah, so the Friday night so the way the Hunter Donaldson fan club works is one Friday night out of every month. I get on Twitch and I play a game based on a poll that the club decides. The night that I'm going to play this month is going to be on January 17th, probably starting about 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And here are the choices that I'm considering right now. I haven't put the poll out yet. I'm probably going to wait one more week to actually put out the poll. But right now, I've got I could play a variant of Twilight Imperium called Nuzlocke, which EJ has kind of developed. And if you're on the Discord, you know what I'm talking about. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm sorry. It's just a very weird way to play Twilight Imperium. It involves, like, if you lose your pieces, you have to throw them away.
Yeah. In Pokemon, a Nuzlocke run is if your Pokemon faints, it's gone forever. So EJ has adapted that to be if a ship dies, it's gone forever. There's also a crazy endgame scenario that he's developed where if two players are tied, it doesn't come down to initiative order. Instead, it basically comes down to a battle royale over Mechatol Rex, which is awesome. I really think the whole point of Nuzlocke is to just work up to that final round moment.
Okay.
But those are like the two guiding principles of Nuzlocke.
Yeah, and hopefully I would play with EJ, which would be nice. And then another option that Billy threw out, one of our Weird Bears, actually, is Dream Daddy. He wants to play Dream Daddy Dating Simulator, if you're familiar with that game. I actually do own that game and have not played it at all, so I could do that. I could play a prelims map Twilight Imperium game, like a mock tournament game, except with only the bottom 6 factions from our list as the only playable factions. And that was recommended by Tabes from the Hunter Donaldson Fam Club. And then also, I always like to just kind of throw one in just for me. I just got that game Control, which is by Remedy, the same studio that did Max Payne and Alan Wake. And they also did one that I didn't play that I heard was bad. But Control looks really interesting, and I would also just be down to play Control. If you guys vote on Control,
the thing that no one will vote for. That's so fun, Hunter.
Yeah, but I always like to just throw one out there that's just like, oh, it might just be cool for me to just play a game, you know?
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. I want to thank our partners, our Space Kitties and our Weird Bears. I want to give a huge thanks already to 2 new Weird Bears that we have. It's not even been a week. They both basically signed up immediately as soon as Weird Bears were available. Billy and Ponchadori. Oh my gosh, thank you both so much. And I also want to thank our Space Kitties, Firosco, Scott Radum, Patience, TG Welch, Naderade, Mantis, R-Wise, Umar, and Woodstock. Thank you all so much for supporting the show at such a high level. You guys are amazing.
Yeah, without you guys, this show would not happen. As far as Twitch and YouTube updates, Holiday Spectacular is up on the YouTube page. Please check it out. I am going to be, this coming week, I'm going to be working on getting a video on YouTube of us playing the newest Root expansion. And by us, it's me, Matt, and Sean. So it's a 3-player game, which is a little bit weird.
Connor's there.
Connor's there, and he's sleeping. And it's actually something we recorded after the Holiday Spectacular at like midnight. So it was a very sleepy vibe. But that will be your YouTube video for this week. So look forward to that. And please, if you have not watched the Holiday Spectacular, I worked real hard on it, and it's real funny.
It's got funny editing moments in it. So don't just watch it for the game.
Also, Matt breaks something. I don't know if we've talked about that at all. There's a part where Matt breaks something, and it's very fun. And it's not even in part 1. You'd have to watch. I'm not going to tell you where it is, but it's not in part 1. So you're going to have to watch past part 1 if you want to find it.
You can rate our show on Apple Podcasts and iTunes, and it helps increase visibility. You can follow us at SpaceCatsPod on Twitter, SpaceCats Peace Turtles on Facebook. You can find us on BoardGameGeek Guild /3103. You can join our Discord and get involved in the channel conversations that are devoted to every single episode. You can also be a part of all kinds of conversations. There's also super fun conversations happening right now all about the Patreon tournament. If you want constant up-to-date information about the tournament, it's all happening on Patreon tournament chat on our Discord server. So if you don't have to wait for the episode to come out to hear about games that just finished, come hang out there, because as soon as every game is done, we announce the winner. The players get in there and they have that, that post-game talk that always happens.
That stuff is awesome.
It's awesome, and it's even more fun when they get to share it with like the whole Discord. So it's honestly, this is seriously the best time to be on the Discord.
I was just about to say that. This is the time. if you listen to the show and you like Twilight Imperium, but you're like, I don't know about getting on a Discord about it, do it. It's fun. Yeah, it's fun to hear about the games, and there are games happening right now while we're recording this.
Can I say it's wild? This weekend literally had like full 24 hours of Twilight Imperium, or very, very close. Your game finished at like just shy of 4 a.m. my time.
Oh,
and then Kate's next game started at 6 a.m. my time. There was only a 2-hour gap where games weren't being played. So this tournament is literally happening 24/7 at the moment, which is absolutely insane.
I just want to thank Jefferson
Yeah.
I am Katie and Vision S again because oh my god. I can't. I'm so glad we're able to do this again.
I'm not even like being nice when I say this year's tournament wouldn't happen if you all hadn't volunteered to help with this.
Right.
Like it literally. After last year, I was saying we will never do that again. Like unless there are major changes, we would never ever do another tournament. So this tournament is only happening because of Vision S, Jefferson, Katie. Billy's going to be showing up around pretty soon too. We're going to have other moderators, but so far those three have been the ones doing it, so we have to give them extra special thanks. But yeah, seriously, this tournament wouldn't be happening this year without them.
Yeah, I literally cannot thank them enough.
Thank you for listening to Space Cat's Peace Turtles, and thanks to Ben Prunty for the use of his music. You can find more at benpruntymusic.com and benprunty.bandcamp.com. Pax Magnifica, Bellum Gloriosum.